Although they did start working with the Beals revolver in the year of 1856, it would not be the same as what you think of the Remington New Model Army today.
And if you're like me, you're into the history stuff, the books, you like the guns, are worth their weight in gold. Because the gun, it's fun to shoot, it's fun to point with, but without the story there, if you're a history person like I am, without the story, it really doesn't mean all that
The Ruger Security 9.
Can I redraw?
You already looked?
No.
You sure
Right.
you didn't?
Now on 3.
Another pro, at least a pro to me, is these guns are kind of a project. I like to look at them as I'm getting an advanced kit build in the mail whenever I get one. So it's a project that you can go down the road and you can either leave it as
Most people believe that the Walker was Colt's first extent to a very, very large pistol, but it wasn't. This was. This is Colt's 1839 to patent firearms revolving carbine pistol. It is massive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Reload Show. First time in like 2 months, it feels like. We haven't been doing these very often. Everybody's been kind of busy, but I'm glad to see everyone out here. I'm seeing a whole lot of new people in the chat tonight. And so we're just kind of going to go over here and introduce everybody. Of course, I'm Garrett from 11 Bang Bang. We have Duke Frazier from Duke Frazier Productions. He's kind of the our mountain man and Indian era Army historian. We have Sheldon, who's our native historian. Down here we have Josh from Wild West Extravaganza. I don't know, he's got this little bitty YouTube channel I don't think anybody ever heard of. It makes just ever made one, maybe 2 videos in his whole life. Yeah, but if you guys don't know, of course, Wild West Extravaganza has been going for several years. He's a Old West podcaster, and I don't know how many years I've been listening to you, Josh, but the videos just get better and better and better. I'm working my way through Jesse James again right now.
Appreciate it.
And then down here, of course, we have Jake from Everything Black Powder. He is the scientist, the Einstein of the black powder world, shall we say. He's always doing something, trying to blow himself or somebody else up. Would that be a fair assessment, Jake?
Yeah, but I still have all my fingers and toes.
And so anyway, if you guys want to know anything about how to make black powder and, velocities, ballistics, and that kind of thing, of course, go check out Jake with Everything Black Powder. And I lost Duke, and I brought him back. Here we go. So we don't have a subject for tonight. Just going to talk some Old West history, guns, firearms, anything you guys want to talk about. This is probably going to be the last show for a while, because at least on my end, some of you guys might still do them, but until at least the end of summer, because I have a lot of stuff going on. But let's get to the comments. We have classic guns today. And by the way, guys, if I'm coughing a little bit, I'm still getting over some stuff. So if I cough a little bit, pardon me. Classic Guns today said, good evening. Travis Lynn said, I have missed these chats. Diane Houston said, good evening, all. Doug Duke said, sure have missed you guys. Shashula's in. He said, good evening, all. By the way, guys, he just finished publishing a book on ballistics of the basically loading and shooting for the 1881 and a few other things. 4570 load development for military firearms. I was able to read it before it got into production, and it's a very good book. And hopefully we'll be able to advertise that before very long. Oregon Outback said, will there be any skunks tonight with their stripes frozen off? Custer Winston said, I found this by accident. JB said, been missing you gents. Hope all is well. Kodak Tackman said, good evening, fellas. Kenton said, evening all. Mill Creek Range said, you forgot Snapper. Oh, sorry. Snapper.
It's okay.
The original
I've been on the show like every single time except for very few. So
you've been on everyone since episode 1, and I'm sorry. But anyway, Snapper's Antique Firearms Unlimited. Original Colt Rust is what he likes to shoot.
The finest of all the red rust.
So, without further ado, let's get into it tonight, guys. We'll start out with Duke has been loading up some pretty interesting ammunition over there. I know the last month or so. How he's loading up 4590.
Yeah, they're not live. They're just some rounds for some reenactment stuff. But yeah, I don't have any close by. But there's one of the cases, and Garrett was nice enough to give me a bunch of these bullets.
So, are you going to portray what era with that?
If I say they're 4490, I can do 1869 and up. I just gotta grind off 4590 on the back.
So what's the difference? Just a basic same case, 4490 neck, bottlenecked, what?
Yeah, it's just well, some of the pictures of 4490, they are bottlenecks. They look like a 4570 that's necked down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then there's some straight wall ones that I guess weren't very popular because I've only found one picture of them, and they're just a hair longer than a 4590 case. But yeah, just for kind of if I want to do a buffalo hunter impression.
Speaking of which, I had a question today that you guys might be able to help me out with. I can't remember who it was. Somebody asked me, if you're out there, I told them to be watching tonight. I'll ask it again. Some years ago, during one of these discussions, and I have no idea where it's at, we discussed the Billy Dixon shot at Adobe Walls too. And we discussed the distance of the shot having changed because of erosion to the hillside.
That was like,
you got any of you have
wasn't that long ago.
That was before I was on here. So.
Yeah, we talked about that in the chat. I brought that up.
Yeah.
I was in that area about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kicking myself for not making the drive. It would have been an extra 45 minutes to go to the Adobe Walls, but
that would have been.
Yeah.
That'd been cool.
Yeah.
To quote John Wayne and Big Jake, I can't even see 1,500 yards.
I missed a deer one time at about 40 yards, and it was standing broadside. Okay. In my defense, I was standing up and a little hungover, but
it's a little shaky.
What did you miss him with? A bayonet?
I should have been. I probably would have had better luck then. I think I was the 30-30. I mean, no excuse. Not at all.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
It's just when I think about that Adobe Wall shot, a Billy Dixon shot, when I know how hard it is to get consistent at 300 to 400. Of course, I think that was more of an accident than anybody there would like to admit. But
it hits a
100%. Hit. I mean, think about the MOA of that. If you actually could test that rifle at that distance, I mean, your shot area between rounds would probably be like 20, 30 feet for that rifle, if not more. So you would never be able to put a round in the same spot over and over again, just because of the difference between each piece of ammo. So,
what round was it? Was it a 50-70 or a?
That's a question. Now, and when I read and I hear, because they call it the Big 50, because he dropped a 4477, right? He had.
Yeah,
and exchanged it for what he called the Big 50. When I hear Big 50, when they say Big 50, it means 50-90.
Okay.
To me, but I don't know if that's. What do you think, Dick? Could the 50-70 be the big 52?
Any sharps in 50 caliber seem to be called Big 50. And I don't know if it's just because it was a bigger bore than the 45s and the other ones, but everybody refers to it as a Big 50. And then sometimes you see them refer to 45-70 as a Big 50 sharp. So I think it was just a name that they used to describe the Sharps rifle.
But he definitely put down a 44 Sharps for a 50 Sharps.
Yeah, because if I remember right, and I could grab the book over here somewhere, but he said he knew that he couldn't reach that far with his Sharps, and so he grabbed another one that was there, and it took him 3 shots.
And you got to wonder what grainage was average for a 50. I mean, I know if it was a 50-70, it's probably a 450 grain bullet, but I wonder, you got something, Josh?
I don't. This is a dubious source, so definitely double check this. But what I'm reading right now says it was a 50 caliber, 600 grain bullet.
There you go. It could very well be. Sheldon, you've been in possession of several of those original Sharps bullets, haven't you?
I only have a 45-70 Sharps.
Okay. Well, I know you had done some studying on caliber weights or bullet weights for those. But was that mostly in the 45 calibers?
The one I have is a 45-70 420 paper patch.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been, or what the heck did the Sharps call it? Like 45-2 and something, 1/10, or something like that.
I thought it was
It's a fraction for the last.
Yeah, they couldn't use the powder designation. Why is that?
No.
But a 600 grain bullet would actually be, that's a pretty good ballistic coefficient with how long a 600 grain would be. I believe it. To get that far and still be stabilized.
You know how bad it would suck to be known as a person that died? Like that would just suck so bad being talked about even to this day. Being that one guy, I'm fine, I'm far enough.
Well, now, isn't it they thought that the bullets could circle around after that, like heat-seeking missiles? Was that something Duke had read? You thought that the bullets could find them at that point? Maybe I heard that somewhere else.
What now?
That the natives up there, they left because they were under the assumption that if it could hit at that range, it must be kind of coming back and hitting. Like it could hone in on you.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I don't. Somebody had said that. Obviously, you couldn't, but somebody had said that was a thought. Somebody.
Well, it was bad medicine for them. That's really what it came down, from my understanding of it.
Well, 50 caliber hole through your chest is pretty bad medicine.
I think that's what I have a hard time understanding sometimes, because I think of stuff like in movies and TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
But these guys were not suicidal. The Native Americans, they weren't just flinging their bodies against them, And if they reached a certain threshold where they thought they were losing too many of their warriors, they were gone. I mean,
yep.
And don't get me wrong, I love old westerns, but the one thing that always throws me off, and I mean I've done reenactments of it too, but where circle the wagons and then you get the 500 natives ride down and just circle till the cavalry shows up. It's like, I don't know if that happened in history, but if it did, I don't think it would happen quite that way. What do you think, Sheldon? Is that not a thing?
I'm trying to remember which fight it was. Duke can probably say, but I know Black Elk mentions that his dad was a part of it. He got shot because they were trying to do circles around the wagon.
Oh, so it did happen.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was a wagon box fight or something.
Yeah, they ran a circle around them at Wagon Box. They ran kind of a circle, or no, it was kind of a circle at Wagon Box. It was a full circle at Hayfield.
But it's not like 30 minutes of riding right up against the wagons, going round and round and round.
No, it's come in, hit quick, try to shoot as many as you can, and knock them down. And then if you don't get it done, then you
get out of range.
Evaluate.
Right out and try again later.
Yeah,
that's the story of the Wagon Box fight to me is. Get in there, get what you can done, and get back out of range.
Because if you look at the tactics they used, and then the tactics like the Missouri guerrillas used, very similar tactics. Run in, hit hard, get out quick.
Yeah. I think another thing is interesting is how we I know Sheldon has some thoughts on this, is how we think of them as mysticized. The Westerns, everything. It's always, they won't fight after dark. They won't this or that, or, John Wayne shooting their eyes out because they can't see in the afterlife and all this. I think it feels like it's too mysticized. Would you say, Sheldon?
I mean, it is. It's too mystified, but at the same time, back then, all the tribes, they were very superstitious. Like, a lot of it doesn't translate nowadays because a lot of it just got wiped away in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
I mean, some people still believe in a lot of it, but no, I don't know. It's like I think like we can read it now and look at it and kind of laugh because I sure as heck did. But in Two Leggings book, he talks about how he's having a vision of, he starved himself, he gashed his arms, I think he tried to cut a finger in a prairie dog town, and then someone from his village runs up or walks up and runs into him by mistake. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you're having a vision," and headed out. So it's like, it's just that they were just superstitious back then, and like.
There's a Louis L'Amour book, and I can't remember which one it was that I had when I was a kid, where Louis L'Amour nailed it because they were on some wagon train, and the wagon master told them, "We just got to hold off till dark because they won't fight at night. They don't believe in getting killed in the dark. They can't go to the afterlife." And the lead Louis L'Amour character looked at him and said, "What about that one that didn't go to church last Sunday? We counting on him too?"
You got to think about how dark it would have been back then too. Especially for us who live in cities, we forget how dark is. Like here, at any time you can see at night for the most part. You're in the middle, you won't see a hole in front of you. And when it's a real dark somewhere that has no light pollution like they had back then, you couldn't fight at night if you wanted to. It'd be just by hearing and touch, probably on really dark nights. It would have been suicidal.
I think most you got was
you just tripping and falling around. You're not even doing anything.
Well, the old mountain men, supposedly, I don't know how true this is, they wouldn't sit too close to the fire or stare directly into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's kind of like the whole pirates wearing one eye patch myth.
Yeah, no, the one too close to the fire, Peg Leg Smith learned that the hard way. That's how you got to be named Peg Leg Smith.
There you go. See,
I always thought that was a fascinating thing that we do as people. When we have a fire, we'll stand near for the warmth, and you look into it, right? But you'd think if you were in an area where there's hostile people, they can see you, but you now can't see them at all.
Right.
They can see you from a mile away all day long, but you won't be able to see them. It's almost suicidal at that time if you were actually to build a fire and be anywhere near it. If you were anywhere, that would probably be dangerous.
Yeah, I think the story was, if I remember it right, was Peg Leg Smith always got real close to the fire, and all his compadres told him, you shouldn't do that. Somebody out there could take a shot at you. And one night it happened, and the ball hit him in the shin and shattered his leg bone. And after that, he learned. But then he went and cut his own leg off and patched it up and survived.
Well, Josh, you know how to make a proper defense in those situations. I mean, tell us about your dog when you were a kid.
that Dalmatian, that has lived rent-free in my head for like 3 years now.
Me too.
You got to do what you got to do, guys.
You got to do what you got to do.
I did eat it afterwards, so I'm not wasting it. Okay.
What episode was that? I highly recommend anybody watch that episode. You will get it comes off as you come off perfectly sounding true about the whole ordeal.
I don't even
and it's like, oh my God.
I kid you not, for any of you that don't know, he had this. Josh sometimes goes on these little things just to see if you're still paying attention, I think, in his videos. The one about Starbucks like a year ago, that one's still
I don't even remember that one. I don't remember half of out of my mouth, man. I say so much nonsense.
Something about the owners of Starbucks. But anyway, what video was that you did the Dalmatian story?
It was Beecher Island.
Yeah.
Beecher Island. And I'm not even sure if it's still up or not. A lot of those older episodes are so embarrassing, I just took them down.
Oh, wow. They were so good. God, they were so good.
Trying to re-record them.
But anyway, you were describing how you went to a paintball war as a kid. And and you watched Lonesome Dove or something, and you had to kill your Dalmatian.
Well, there's that great scene where Gus kills his horse. He's got no choice, right? He's got to lay behind it. It's sort of like a. I just made up this story that I had a dog. I've never owned a Dalmatian before in my life. Never heard a dog before. I just made up a story. I was like, yeah, I had this little dog and I cut its throat. And I just,
well, no, you explained that it was old and blind.
Oh, did I? Oh,
yeah.
It's old and blind because you're like, you know what? I need to win this fight. So
he's like, I slipped out of my pocket.
He'll take it for the team.
Slash that throat ear to ear. Got
it, man. And the other kids just didn't want to play anymore for some reason. But I have gotten so many angry emails from people who they stop listening before I say I'm just joking.
Yeah.
And sorry. And they just start typing out their angry emails, man. But yeah. Very angry people. I'm pretty sure I think probably somebody's probably reported me to like, I don't know, PETA or somebody over that.
I remember where I was when that video came out. I was feeding cattle in this blue tractor that was kind of tippy anyway. It was a front end heavy tractor. And I just remember you were talking about this old Dalmatian that was blind and couldn't hardly walk, but followed you everywhere. And then he just gets to this part and he's like, well, I pulled out my pocket knife and I slashed that Dalmatian's throat ear to ear. I slammed on the brakes of that tractor and it went wham and dropped the rails on the front end. The rear wheels came up and came back down. That is one tough kid. And I was like, you kidding me? Because at the time I just started listening to you and you sold it so well. And then
that's the hardest part. You sold it so well and you had it go so long that it actually sounded believable.
Yeah.
Just that bit believable. You're like, I'm pretty sure he's joking, but the way he made it sound was really believable.
Well, he has that cadence.
Seriously.
He has that cadence where he doesn't come back to it for about 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, that is true too.
Oh man.
That one was so good.
I enjoyed it. I like doing that type of stuff.
And anyway, down here to Jake. He's a Remington loving turncoat. Shooting those Remington revolvers and saying he likes them. I saw someone in your comment section said I knew he'd come over to our side.
Oh, geez.
Of course, I see a lot of things in your comment section.
Yeah, so do I.
There could be an entire YouTube channel devoted to Jake's comment section.
Yeah.
I didn't say that I liked it. Didn't I just say that it was growing on me?
You were all over it. You were like, it's the greatest thing ever.
Babe,
you're petting it.
Babe.
It's like, it's just so good.
Just wait till you get a cap jam with one of them, then you'll hate it.
Well, my brother and I joke all the time. We always look at each other and go, Remingtons don't cap jam. Okay, Remingtons don't cap jam.
Then they cap jam.
See, in my mind, I'm just putting it all up to Blackie's gun butter. That's the only reason that gun worked the way it was. You just use Blackie's gun butter.
It's the cure-all.
I've already abused that thing pretty serious, and it's held up really well. I'm proud of it, really.
See, look, see, I told you. He's buying into it. He's getting there deeper and deeper. Before the end of this, he's going to be like, yeah, it's one of my favorite guns now.
Oh, jeez. Well, you saw what I did to my last one. I mean,
that is true.
You did pop one, didn't you?
I did, yep.
I just love how nonchalant you were about it, too. Oh, well, crap, it blew up in my hand.
Well, that's a possibility when you're doing that kind of stuff.
If you guys want to know how that works, go back and check out smokeless powder in a black powder revolver.
Was it a smokeless test you were doing that blew that Remington up?
Yes.
Only 6
I don't know.
grains.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It didn't even make it past 6 grains. He couldn't believe it.
No. And it didn't even go off all extreme. I mean, it didn't even feel. I didn't even know it broke until I tried to cock the hammer back.
That's what was so funny about it. That was the most nonchalant blow up I've ever seen. And you had no reaction. You're just like, crap.
It was pretty underwhelming, really. It just.
And then he sends us a picture of it, and Snapper's like, I think it was Snapper told you should probably just hang that on the back wall of your little studio where you're shooting there, and just see how long it takes somebody to mention it.
That's what I did.
How long?
And it hung. it hung up there for 3 months before I finally had enough comments where I figured, like, okay, I'll come clean about this.
What's funny
Yeah,
is
most people don't just have a blown up gun in their background.
I'm not most people.
No, that is true. Most people
I
also don't
told
have
you
the
the
YouTube
Einstein
sign
and
that's
black
shot up,
powder
which is
world.
perfect, by the way. That's a perfect way to treat the YouTube little 100,000 sub. Shoot it. That's perfect.
One of these days, I'll have one of those when I'm old and gray.
Blow up
100,000
everything?
subscriber plaque.
Oh.
Josh, are you getting pretty close up there? What are you up to?
I'm not there yet. I don't know what the exact number is, but yeah.
Well,
think
don't worry,
make them a
guys.
lot
One day you'll
smaller
be as
now.
big as my channel with a whopping 2,000 or 3,000 subs, I think. And I'll show you guys how to do the ropes. It's not too complicated.
I will give Josh credit. You and Blackie Thomas and a few others above all, you built it without shorts.
Oh yeah, I did. I tried shorts for a little bit, but it's just too much of a hassle.
They're dead, and they can, if they do take off and you're not ready to keep up with them, they can kill a channel too.
Yeah, because people are not looking. They're looking. If you do long form stuff, yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, it can. I mean, what happens is, and I did it. I started doing it, and I got away from. I was making 5 a day for like a year, and I was still doing long format stuff, and we were growing. But I had one takeoff, or Ethan did, that finally got to 1 million. And what we found out was it killed our growth for about 8 months because YouTube algorithm saw all these people come in and watch this video, and then they never watched anything else. And they're like, oh, your channel's dead. So it's like the algorithm can kill you if you're not careful with those.
And there's so many.
And those short subscribers are not the same.
No, they're not.
Even just deleting like a video, I've heard can affect things.
It's like, but Jake handled it pretty well down there because he had a couple really good running shorts, but then he really took off with consistent weekly videos that kept up, long format videos, and there's a way to work it to where it does work. But if you're not careful, the shorts can be deadly to a channel. I
was glad that I fell on the long form content instead of the shorts because I know there are guys that they went for the shorts and that's what works for them. But I'm glad I went with the long form.
Yeah. Yeah, and that because I felt bad because I told a lot of people to do it when it first came out, and once I finally realized how the algorithm worked with it, I was like, "Oh, you got to be careful with it, though." But I give Josh credit because I don't think your channel's built on shorts at all, and you really when you put out podcast style videos and you have that many subscribers in a history, you've done really well in a history setting.
Oh, thank you, man. I tried my hardest. For a long time, YouTube for me was just like an afterthought. But turns out if you start focusing on it and trying really hard, you start seeing some results. But it took a long time. This is definitely not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
But even you mentioned, was it you, Snapper, who said 2,000 subscribers?
I'm like almost 3. I have no idea. I haven't even checked in forever. I haven't actually made a video in like a year. I need to. That's
not a small accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. That's all.
2,000
people tuning in to see, and people can. I'm not going to badmouth anybody here, but I was helping somebody out. This is like a year, 2 years ago. Try to grow their channel, and they had nothing to do with history or anything like that. And I felt really bad because no matter what they did, man, it was 30 views, 20 views an episode or a video. And that's how a lot of people are, man. So just even having 2,000 subscribers, that's not bad. That's not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned.
We were talking about this. It's probably been over a year now. And it was something like how many people start YouTube and actually get over 1,000 subs? It's less than 1%. It's like a less than 1% of 1% of people actually get over 1,000 subs. It's crazy.
It's like
how rare it is to actually hit 1,000. And it's crazy hard the first 1,000. Honestly, it's one of those kind of things you need help. Somebody who's actually got it to help you because the algorithm just does not put your stuff out there at all.
Yeah. We had that discussion because I'd had a lot of people asking me for shout outs at the time. And I would shout them out. Not that I'm a big channel or anything, but I try to help shout them out. And it's nobody obviously in here now that the people I'm talking about I don't talk to anymore, but I would help them out, and then they would be like, "Man, I had this big influx of people come in from your shout out, but I haven't got any more. Would you do it again and do it again and do it again? And pretty soon I realized when I went over and watched, I was like, you're not going to grow a channel on a potato phone with, 5 or 15-second videos,
Yeah.
And so that was
Or videos where you just talk about something that has nothing to do for nothing for 20 minutes, or you're setting up a target for 20 minutes and you're not talking. It's like, you got to edit this stuff.
Well, it's a matter of you've got to want it for that first 1,000, and you got to work at it harder than you work at your job usually for that first 1,000.
I mean, to be fair, the only reason why I'm on here is because I'd be friendly Garrett and Duke. I don't do nothing. I don't do no YouTube. I think my last one was a game upload from my PlayStation 4 like 10 years ago.
Well, that's true. But Sheldon, you bring a perspective that not many other historical channels bring.
I'm a token Indian friend.
But here's the thing:
you gotta have one.
I had to learn this, that Native history is looked down. A lot of people in the Native world don't look at any history because if it's written in a book, it was written by a white man, right?
Yeah.
And so there's so few people who are actually into studying in the actual history like you are. So you bring a very unique perspective to these historic chats.
Like you said, like I try to talk about this with some of my friends my age, and that's the first thing you say. Oh, that's white people history. It's like, well, if it wasn't for them, these stories wouldn't have been written down.
Yeah.
No, like I bought 2 books. I finally bought Wooden Lake's book, and the only reason why I bought it was because Josh, I listened to his podcast, like, yeah, maybe I should finally read this. And Wahini, she's a Hidatsa woman, and consider a little autobiography. It's a little quick read. You could probably finish it up in a day. I got those 2, and it's just interesting seeing just the different aspects.
Which book is that?
Wahini.
Okay.
Buffalo Bird Woman.
Yeah, it's not the one I got then.
No. No, she just.
I personally love hearing the indigenous side on the Custer fight. I don't know why I'm so fascinated with that fight, especially hearing the opposite. Because your whole life you heard, oh, he was the bravest man with his last stand, and it was chaos. It was just chaos the entire time.
He's the greatest at not.
I mean, I'm sure you're brave because you're going to be on that field, but it was chaos. It was just chaos. It was no organized. It was a sad run around the whole thing.
Like when the people that you specifically hire to be your guys out on the field, and they say don't do this, and you're like,
and you do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
the trail is 60 yards wide and a foot deep. That's a rabbit trail.
Like, I got this book from the library. I borrowed it a few times, and what I was trying to do was, I don't know the word I'm looking for not a review bash, but bring out inconsistencies.
Pick it apart.
Yeah, it's I just have it right here.
Well, yeah, show it to us.
This one.
Oh yeah.
Hey, look, Jake. Favorite gun.
My thing is he will either have just like, yeah, sure, oral stories are important amongst natives, but he'll have like just a snippet of it and he'll say it's gospel, or he combines several stories into one. The biggest one that made me want to do is a white bull. He mixes white cow bull, an Ogallala, with white bull, the Miniconjou. And he mixes those 2 stories together, and it's kind of like.
What book was that? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Documenting the weapons of Little Bighorn. I don't think it's in print anymore. That
is such an important subject too, because that's the weapon story of Little Bighorn has changed so much over the years.
So much.
He at this Wendell Grangard, he's kind of infamous at because he says there's a secret pictograph language that the Lakota knew, and Ben Blackout taught him, but no other Lakota knows. And you look at those things like, yeah, maybe it was like someone's drawing or just a nick or something like what do you call it, a dent in the stock. But he'll say it means all this. I'm like, I don't think so. But I met him at a gun show, and he was nice. But after reading more into the history and stuff, I'm like, his book's kind of makes me scratch my head.
Yeah, and that's the worst kind of thing too, because once it's published in book form, people take it for gospel.
Oh yeah.
But that's the thing I was trying to dig into. Like he talks about like that Remington that he shows a picture of that. Supposedly came off a rain in his face, and he supposedly picked it up at Little Bighorn. But when he mentions there's like a snip in there. It's how he gets it or why he stopped using it. But he says, "Oh, his son came to work for me in '92." I'm like, his son probably 92 years old.
Yeah.
Well, that's so interesting because when you're talking about the weapons, and I'm not going to go into my, we get into this because this show is notorious. I always have people comment, they're like, you should just call it the Little Bighorn Show because that's where we always wind up.
Yeah.
But, Little Bighorn or Red Cloud's War, that's one of the two.
Yeah.
That's always what. But like instantly.
It's crazy how much the history's changed. Even our lifetime, how much the history of those two fights changed.
Doug Duke sent me probably 2 years ago article that had been published some time ago on of course, as you guys know, Doug Duke's a published author of the Firearms of the Texas Ranger from the frontier period to the modern age.
Mm-hmm.
It's an excellent book. But he sent me an article about trapdoors, trying to push the trapdoors into the Texas Rangers, and the Texas Rangers refusing them. And this was later on, of course, and going with the 73 Winchesters. And what was interesting was their story was, and obviously Texas Rangers, United States Army, there's a big difference in what your military should be armed with and what these little groups of skirmishers should be armed with. But the funny thing was, they said, we don't want them because scores and scores and hundreds of them failed Custer and caused his death at the Little Bighorn. And they're like, scores and scores of them jammed. And I'm like, well, the archaeology now says that maybe one or two jammed at Last Stand Hill, right? So it's like that story was already starting back then. And I honestly think it came from Libby Custer, who was looking for anything in the world to make it look like George Armstrong Custer didn't get all those guys killed.
Yep.
We're going after the guns. We're going after Reno. We're going after this. And after that, it's like, yeah, just don't ride, into that hornet's nest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So in that book there, what do they say about the jamming guns at Little Bighorn?
I think there's a little section of it, but I kind of glanced over it.
You just glanced over it.
Have you got this one?
No.
Yeah, that's the one that I got a PDF file of.
I just got it. I haven't had a chance to read it at all.
I think I borrowed maybe an older copy from the library, but that was like years ago.
It's like I said, hats off to the Texas Rangers. They got the weapon they needed in the 73 lever action.
Like one thing that got me is like if I was to do like what like you guys do with your channels is focus on like the battles and stuff, but try and I don't know, maybe like start with like my tribe and stuff. But like Garrett was talking about the Modoc War, and now there's like not a lot covering on that.
I first time I ever heard of the Modoc War was from Josh. But then after I studied it, it fit so well into the trapdoor series that I was like, I got to throw that in there. But yeah, that was excellent work you did on the Modoc War.
Oh, thank you, man. That's not really one of my proudest ones. I don't know. I had a hard time researching that one, but it's definitely an interesting conflict, man.
It's
overlooked. I would love to go to those, sir.
It's historically overlooked, which is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a national disaster.
Yeah.
But nobody knows about
general.
it.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But there were similar, well, maybe not similar, but there was a lot of wars with settlers and the military and the Native Americans up in like Oregon and Washington, and those get glossed over a lot too. A lot of, well, really all of the California tribes get glossed over. It seems like.
Yep.
Yeah. Because that one, the California tribes, that's kind of earlier before you start getting a lot of people out there that really documenting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like when you get into Red Cloud's War, there's a lot of documentation, people keeping journals and such. And then 76 campaign, they've got news correspondents going along with them. So those get documented a lot more.
Yeah.
It's interesting how most people who even know their history, if you ask them to give you a timeline of American West and Native histories, they'll start out with the United States Civil War, then Little Bighorn, then Wounded Knee, and it was all over.
That's it. Somewhere in there. Well, no, what I hear a lot is, and then of course there was the Seminoles up until like the 1960s. People tell me that all the time for some reason. I don't know. I think it's because that song.
Oh, Seminole Win.
Seminole Win.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are convinced that was like the last of the holdouts,
Right.
I'm still fascinated by the idea that there could have possibly been Apache living
Bronco.
in Mexico in the 1920s and 30s, like still doing
Yeah, that's cool.
That's mind-boggling.
I feel like for me, that's where I cut off the Indian Wars with the Bronco Apache and the Texas Rangers, and the that, what did they call that time period? That you had a name for it.
To me?
Yeah, in your videos, there's a.
Who knows? This is what kind of nonsense comes out of my mouth sometimes.
I remember. Now, was Frank Hamer ever involved in those late teens? Because I know that they were still hunting them. Was he still involved in that?
As far as I'm aware, none of the Texas Rangers were.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, I could be mistaken. I haven't really dug like that deep into Frank Hamer. The only thing I looked at about him was that his supposed first gunfight.
Yeah.
When he was, what was it on The Highwayman, that movie or TV show or whatever it was?
Yeah.
They kind of share that story about how he killed some guy when he was 16. Never happened. But yeah. I don't know that I don't really think there was anything like that going on like that late for the Texas Rangers. They were doing plenty of killing on the border, but unfortunately, I mean, it was other brown people they were slaughtering at that point.
Okay, that might have been where my mix-up was, because there's that famous picture of them with the two guys on the
rope.
Oh yeah,
so you're thinking of like that was era known as La Matanza.
That's what I thought. Yeah. But that's something different then. Well, good thing I didn't claim it. Oh, you guys want to go through some comments right quick? I'm probably way behind.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bill Creek Rain said, okay, Snapper. Custer Winston said you forgot to introduce Jake too. No, I introduced Jake. I did not call him a Yankee.
No, he called me a scientist and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, and a Remington 11 turncoat.
Oh yeah, that.
Shashiel said that's a stylish hat, Garrett. Thank you. Cool.
Hey guys, I'll be right back.
Okay. Hi guys, glad to see you again. Doug Duke said, "Evening, Billy." Even Billy said that was a scratch shot. Mexican American War and revolver. Sorry about that, Doug. I must have missed that. Sleepy Leap said, "Evening, gents. Nice to see Jake on. Has live stream camera audio setup. Does not disappoint." Oh, you mean for Josh or for Jake?
You mean my phone?
Todd V said, "Garrett, how is the homesteading coming along? You won't be doing videos until the summer. We need updates on the property." I will be. I got some stuff. I'm still working through some stuff over there. That'll be coming out on my other channel, which is Smoke in the Woods. But we'll be doing videos, but live streams in the evenings are hard to come by time for me. I'm not saying the rest of the guys won't do it, but I probably will be. Shotshul said, "Have you read 4570 at 2 miles, the Sandy Hook test, the 1897 John Farquharson?" I've read the reports, but I have not read that particular book, if that's what you're saying. Classic Guns Today said the circling thing makes sense as far as native circling the wagons, somewhat in that it's harder to hit a target moving side to side, especially on a run, as opposed to coming right at you for fortified position. Yeah.
That's a pretty good point.
If you've ever been in one of those runs on horseback, which we've done a couple of them on reenacting, that is the nightmare of all nightmares to be in the middle of that mess. As the attacker,
I would expect it would be like on, and then maybe 1-2 trips around, and then back off.
Well, what happens?
That would make sense.
We've done it reenacting for the Medicine Lodge Peace Treaty for forever. I never rode the outside, but I was always with scouting and inside the wagon train, but I've been like right there with it. And I've known people that rode in it, and every year something happened. I knew a girl who broke her back, broken ribs, lost guns, broken horse legs, because it is just to try to actually do it with a good number of people. It's a nightmare because horses don't behave the way they do in the movies. Owen said, have you thought of doing a video of the 1854 Lorenz rifle from Military Heritage? I can't find any video of the one online or any of their percussion rifles for that matter. No, I haven't. Maybe somebody else here will, but I think we're kind of wrapped up on buying replicas for a while. We kind of moved over to buying a lot of originals, and maybe we'll get back to doing some replica stuff next year. Soylent Green, we're talking about that Remington giant billboard on the barrel, black powder only. Jake, challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
Shot Shield said Remington's rule.
I still find that video you did on duplex floats fascinating. Just how little, mixing just a tiny bit of smokeless in there, cleaned it up to the point like it was like super clean to shoot. That is crazy fascinating.
Did you see, speaking of duplex loads, your favorite channel out there, Carl, what's his name, did a video on that?
Yeah, I saw it pop up. I didn't watch it. But I figured. He was like, oh, my buddy Jake made this, so I got to make one too.
I don't know. I have unsubscribed.
Trying to impress you, Jake.
I don't see his videos. What happened?
He one of his problems that he's had for a long time is running black powder loads in a Schofield reproduction, where they gum up like a Remington. After 12 shots, the thing won't even roll. And so he tried some duplex loads, and he put 36 rounds or something through it, and it was still rolling fine.
Huh. Cool.
So
at least it worked.
Yeah, it worked for him.
Yeah, it definitely worked.
Soylent Green said, have we ever seen everything black powder? Frontier Western Heritage and the Adventure Cowboy in the same room? Not convinced it isn't the same person. Okay, yeah. I never had the Adventure Cowboy on, but Duke has before on his channel. If you go back on Duke Fraser Productions, there's a pretty good interview with Adventure Cowboy.
Was it on Duke Fraser on the main one, or on the? I think it was on Fraser's Raiders.
It might have been on Fraser's Raiders.
What was the other one? Adventure Cowboy, and what was the other one?
Frontier Western Heritage. He does a lot of the same. He doesn't make powder that I'm aware of, but he does a lot of the same ballistic testing, 40 grains and a 45 Colt. He made a pretty famous video that was, if I'm thinking it right, that was kind of proving that the 4440 could outpower the 45 Colt and black powder as far as feet per second due to the bottleneck.
Oh, yeah. Doc Kastner. That's him, right? That's Frontier Western Heritage, isn't it?
It might be.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not him.
And he's not the Adventure Cowboy. If you were Adventure Cowboy, you would get a lot of Cimarrons to test and evaluate.
Nobody sends me anything to test. I don't know why.
Because they know you're going to put smokeless in it.
They don't want it to go through a real test.
They don't want to go through a real
Might
test
be that
on camera.
blown up Remington revolver behind your head. That
Look, do you want it? Do you want it tested, or do you want somebody to sell it for you? Because I'll test it.
You know what? I bet if you contacted Henry, I've never met a gun tuber that had over 1,000 subscribers that Henry turned down. If you contact him, Henry is. As a matter of fact, they even contacted me one time with a sticker just for reviewing one that I had already bought myself. So
looks like I'm gonna start reviewing Henry guns then.
Yeah,
there you go. All I'm going to talk about now is Henry's.
Henry Henry's one of the most YouTuber friendly. Now, I'm not saying they'll give one to everybody or which one you want to everybody, but they've been one of the most YouTuber friendly that I've heard of from other channels. As far as that, now usually it's a test evaluation gun. You got to send it back or buy it, but you know.
Well, never mind.
Good friend of
There's
mine
always a catch.
Yeah.
knew Henry because he heard that they could take the really like 45-70 Magnum loads.
Ooh.
Well, he goes in and buys a 16-inch barrel, light as can be gun, and puts that Magnum in there with a scope on it. And you can just
Nice. That's how you do it properly. Get perfect little scope rings on your eyes. That's how you do it properly.
Yeah, when I went up there, he had like a cut in his head with stitches in it. And I'm like, what happened?
Well,
A little too close to the scope.
I've been running those hot in that Rossi R95, which was surprised me to death because I didn't think anybody would care. That Rossi R95 was one of the most popular videos I've ever made. But when I did the chapter 2, I had loaded up those 450 grain bullets up to 1680, 1700 feet per second, which is that's toasty for a little 6.5 pound gun. And I'm built like a boulder, right? I'm low to the ground and I'm heavy. And when I shoot that thing, it don't bother me standing straight up. You know, I rock with it. Well, I give it to Ethan with those loads, and I wasn't even thinking. I told him, it's not going to kick that hard. I said, it don't kick more than hardly a 12 gauge. And he's like, okay. So he props forward on his elbows and just rests that thing on his front hand. And I saw a video, that big fireball comes out the front and that goes, woo, jumps over and about hits the side of the shooting board because it came out of his hand. I was like, oh, sorry.
Well, these rounds, my friend was shooting their 300 grain solid copper doing 2,400 feet per second.
That's what.
I don't know where he got them, but they're not designed for North America. They're designed for African game.
Yeah. And what's funny is even with those loads, we haven't pushed 4570 to its total capabilities. But if everything works out, we're going to do that next week with a different gun. Cliffhanger.
So as long as it's not mine, somebody else's will do it. But as long as it's not mine.
Let's put it this way: this gun is special, built for the purpose of shooting hot 4570.
So it's your enemy's gun then.
Doug Duke said, Duke, show that book again.
Yeah, I'll show it again.
He didn't see what it was.
Yeah, I showed it before. They'll show it here again. If I can get to where I don't have glare on it.
Archaeology, History, and Custer's Last Battle by who?
Richard Allen Fox
Jr. Yeah. Let's see. Sachula said, Garrett, that's why I wrote that information about copper cases in my book. Doug Duke said, what is the name of the new 4570 book? I don't know that it's out yet. It was called, it will be called, if it's not called, by Shashula. You're looking at... He can probably just tell you in the comment section. He'll have to tell you the exact name because it's a very precise name. Doug Diggs said, the uneducated Mexicans in the Mexican War thought a revolver would shoot around trees and stuff because it was revolving. Okay. So Green said, call me Carl. Dr. Todd Kinzer.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Kestner.
Kodak Techman says. Oh, yeah, we're down with the comments.
I still think his video on the 1877 is pretty interesting about, speaking of the Custer fight. He has it's an interesting video of that there could have been a prototype there. And it's convincing, but, it's just like everything else about the Custer fight.
It's so interesting because we were just earlier talking about, Classic Guns Today. I missed that. Sorry. He said Kit Carson almost had his last stand at 1864 at the first Battle of Adobe Walls, where he and I think 300 men went after what they thought was a small band and ended up with 1,500 Comanche. Yeah. But
yeah, you know what Kit Carson said about that fight when it was over? They whooped me. He was very plain spoken about it.
What was something to do with dragging the howitzers behind him out of there?
Yeah. Basically, from what I've read, it seems like his leadership has really kept them together, because that sounded from like I said, what I read, like it was the thickest of the fight when they were trying to make their retreat and hauling those howitzers and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be difficult.
Yeah.
Back to that discussion on because what Snapper's talking about is that it's possible that some people believe Custer would have committed suicide with an 1877 Colt Lightning, or was it Thunder?
Thunder. It would have been the Thunder because it would have been the 44 or 41. Excuse me.
41.
Sorry, 41. Yeah.
This is where it's interesting, because this is like we were talking earlier with the native oral tradition versus the written tradition, written down, because they have a totally different story on how that went down, you know. And so I don't know. What do you think, Sheldon? You got anything on? Because I know Duke has quite a bit on Custer's what we believe now to be the British Bulldog revolvers that he had, and some people now are saying it's a 77 Lightning. You got anything on that, or Thunder? Got anything on that, Sheldon?
I think it was some trader in Canada says he mentioned seeing a Lakota with a nickel-plated bulldog.
We know he had a bulldog too. Like, we absolutely know he had a bulldog.
Yeah, it was whatever trader they were. They went up in Canada after the fight, but like no. Because all that ammunition and guns got taken. So unless you,
what happened? That one that came up for sale, because he had like two. One was missing, and then I think one stayed with his wife. Was that how that went down? If I remember right, the one like that's how we know he owned a bulldog. And there's pictures of it.
I think that.
So it's likely that's probably what he had on him. But the whole idea of the 1877 is pretty fascinating as well. Just the thought of it. Is it possible? Maybe. It's interesting, though. It's a pretty interesting way he put it out there and thought-provoking, but likely it was probably the bulldog.
I would say it's a
but
bulldog,
I'd like to think
because those were getting sent out to the United States for cheap. And
yeah. I believe he even liked it quite a bit, too.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
And I don't think I'd go onto a battle with a weapon that I got that's a prototype when my life came like down to it. If you're really getting into the thick of things, I'd probably have something that I knew pretty well instead of just some random, hey, this showed up, a couple months ago, play with a little bit versus
try this.
An actual gun that you know. Mm-hmm. I don't see somebody going onto the battlefield with a prototype if you're actually really fighting for your life. It'd be kind of a stupid thing to do.
It just sounds like
I agree.
He didn't run into a whole crap ton of people with a very small amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
just for any of you guys in the comments that are interested, Shot Shula said that book that I have just read recently that he has published is out on Amazon. It's called Historical Shooting of the Springfield Trapdoor Rifle, and it's by Hugh Knight, obviously. And so check that out. It's a really good book.
Yeah, I ordered one. I haven't got it yet.
He's signing it.
Yeah, it's really good. Now they have what they call the Texas hold, because we always talk about the Creedmoor stance and the stances where they're lay down. Mm-hmm. There is one called the Texas stance that is the weirdest looking ground lay stance on the shoulder I have ever seen in that book, and I really want to try it, but I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off.
Is that where they rest the rifle between their feet and then they lay back on their back? And
yeah, and the Creedmoor stance is like that too, but this particular Texas stance is they like figure eight around the rifle. It's kind of funny to see.
I'd be more worried about blowing my toes off than anything.
Oh.
So Josh, what are you working on?
Jesse James right now. Have no idea what I'm doing after him. It's still up in the air. I'm usually working on
Medicine Lodge bank robbery. The Medicine Lodge bank robbery. The Medicine Lodge bank robbery.
Okay. I'll look into that. Email me so I don't forget that. But I'll tell you what I do want to dive into is I get a lot of comments about smallpox blankets. So I want to really look into that and like try to, if I can get to the bottom, were they ever actually distributed on purpose? You know, that sort of stuff.
I always had this thing that smallpox won't survive. It doesn't survive like that. Like if you did put it on a blanket, it wouldn't survive on the blanket long enough for you to give it to somebody else and then actually get sick from it.
I don't know.
I read that somewhere in some medical thing, but I'm not sure if that's true. I don't know.
What makes me really want to look into it, there was one confirmed case where the military, this was back east. This was
the ship blankets.
I don't remember, but they did specifically give this band or a village infected blankets with that express purpose. I've read very little about it, but it's one of those things that's always interested me, and I'd like to look into it more.
I would be
that is an interesting topic.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see. I mean, because they hadn't, for most of that, they hadn't developed germ theory.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
that's another thing too.
Yeah,
I mean, but Bay Company is the one that did that, and I think it was during the French and Indian War.
Yeah, it was a while back.
Yeah,
a lot earlier than the stuff I normally cover.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating. I'd love to hear about that. Actually, that would be pretty cool too.
I want to do like a video where I just do like a short history of the entire Old West. So I don't know what that would look like. Just starting from going back 10,000 years and summing it all up in like 30 minutes. See what happens.
Just do it. Well, all you got to do is say Civil War, Little Bighorn wounded,
That's
and
it.
it's over.
That's it. Yeah. Somewhere in there was Billy the Kid, I think somewhere. But yeah.
Yeah. No, Billy the Kid's still alive. What are you talking about?
That's right. I keep forgetting.
Brushy
Yeah.
Bill is a liar, part 37.
I'm curious on how many comments you get on that one still.
Oh, I get emails all the time. Insane people emailing me about Billy the Kid, which I understand. It's a fascinating topic, but I've had Billy the Kid's wife email me, some psychic lady, so she's married. The main one I get all the time is just people constantly trying to say, "Hey, man, I have absolute proof. You need to get on the right side of history." Because I know for a fact, Brushy Bill. Somebody emailed me yesterday. They got Billy the Kid / Brushy Bill. You know the photo of the Dodge City Peace Commission?
Yeah.
With
Billy the Kid's in the Dodge City Peace Commission too.
Oh, that would make my day.
Yeah.
Of course he was.
Of course all the time. Mostly it's just angry people that I'm convinced that people watch movies and that's history, right?
Yeah.
So I don't read any of the books, which I get that too. And there's a lot of stuff I'm interested in that I'll listen to you guys talk about something and just, okay, that must be true because, Garrett said it. But,
read it. I link the sources.
Same here. But a lot of people want Billy the Kid to have not been killed by Pat Garrett. It just comes down to that, He was young. He was he probably wasn't even yet 21 years old, And here comes this Pat Garrett. We've all seen Young Guns. We love Billy the Kid. He was a nice guy, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Then Pat Garrett kills him, and people don't like that, man.
Yeah.
The evidence.
I think you put the whole thing to rest. I mean, that's the hardest part for me is after you watch all of your videos on it.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you covered every single avenue I could think to attack, to see it, you couldn't go any further except digging up his body. And we're not even 100% sure where his body is, being where the flood or whatever that messed up the tombs, how they got mixed around or something like that.
There's a really good book on that if anybody's interested. I think it's The Grave of Billy the Kid. Gosh dang it, I'm blanking on the author's name now. Billy the Kid's Grave, or The Grave of Billy the Kid. But there's a very good case. David G. Thompson Thomas. Sorry, David. I can't remember his last name. He did some really amazing research. So there were soldiers. Yeah, obviously, Fort Sumner was an actual military fort before it was bought out by Lucian Maxwell. So there were soldiers buried there. I don't remember how many, but those soldiers were reinterred after that flood. Okay. So they actually had contracted this guy to go in there, and he spoke with old timers, and none of these graves were marked, the soldiers' graves. The old timers drew a map. The guy's name was Dudrow, and there still exists what's called the Dudrow map. And when he was talking to these old timers, he also marked the other civilian graves. And one of the graves that he marked was Billy the Kid and Tom Folliard and Charlie Bowden.
That's interesting.
And but he didn't dig them up. He did dig the soldiers up. All of the soldiers were still there. Remember, this is after the flood, the big flood of the Pecos River.
Yeah.
All of the soldiers were there, popped open the caskets. He even made notes about how remarkably well preserved they were. He said only one of the bodies still stunk. And I believe they sent him to Santa Fe and reinterred him. Now, years later, there's been a lot of different iterations of Billy the Kid's tombstone. It's been stolen over the years. The first one was just a wooden marker that got shot up supposedly by cowboys. When the tombstone that is now his marker that is currently there right now, whenever they placed that marker there were still old timers around. There were 4 guys. 3 of the 4 were pallbearers for Billy the Kid's funeral. They marked.
So you think that they would definitely know.
You would think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the area they said his grave at is like within feet or yards of where it was marked on that Dudrow map, and they weren't aware of that Dudrow map. That didn't come to light until like the 1990s, I want to say. I'm probably butchering Mr. Thompson's work, but it's all in his book. It's really fascinating, and after reading that, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be.
Sounds possible that
he's right there underneath it. Yeah, to this day.
That'd be cool. That would be all cool if they would actually allow that to be dug up, though. I'm sure that would be an impossibility unto itself.
Well, another thing
just for
about
history.
Flood, I've heard the same thing about the flood my entire life. I think I've probably repeated that on early podcast episodes, but I don't know that there's any evidence whatsoever that any caskets or bodies floated away during that flood. I think that's just something we've all just assumed, and somebody said it one day and we all repeated it. And yeah. Now,
thinking about that, it would be pretty difficult to move a really big rock. I mean, I can see if there were wooden stakes in the ground, and caskets do float. I mean, we've seen that.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
That's interesting because if there's 2 things that are correlating with each other and they were actually not known about, separate from each other, that's pretty good evidence that it's.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That'd be really cool if they would just dig it up, because I'd love to hear just finally get the debate over with, so they can actually get rid of Brushy Bill's tombstone.
Will never
from
happen.
saying Billy the Kid.
Jesus himself could come back right now and say Brushy Bill Robinson not the kid, and people would still believe it. It doesn't matter. And the reason DNA test is not going to matter is because they did a DNA test for Jesse James. And still think that.
Yeah, that is true.
That was not Jesse. Yeah, that was Jesse, people.
There is when you're that far down the rabbit hole, there's no evidence that will.
There's no convincing you. Yeah. Well, they switched it around to try to prove it wasn't. I guarantee you'll hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to do evidence for I'm drawing a blank. The one that went down to South America, the 2 of them.
Oh, Butch Cassidy.
Butch Cassidy.
Yeah.
I did an episode on that a long time ago when I first started. Once again, not available to the public anymore. But I actually talked to a guy. There's a guy named Dan Buck that wrote a book about that. He was like vacationing down there in the 70s with his wife or something. And he seems pretty adamant that it's kind of a hoax. It's been such a long time since I went down that rabbit hole. I'm looking forward to revisiting it. The one thing that always stuck with me though was Butch's sister swore. But on the other hand, she barely even knew her own brother. Like, she was a very young child when he went away. You know what I mean? So who knows, dude? I think I'm very skeptical about that type of stuff, but hey.
I'm sure if you went to my sister and asked where I was buried, she'd show you right now. And so I wouldn't trust too much about that.
Well, you were behind a mask so long, we wouldn't know if that was true or not. Oh,
it's hard watching my old. You think it's hard listening to your old videos, Josh? It's really hard watching my old videos.
I can't watch my new videos. What are you talking about? If I took like an honest 5 minutes of self-reflection, I would quit immediately and go get an honest job somewhere, man.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't. Because believe it or not, you'll be amazed at how many times you have gotten me through like sleepless nights or long distance drives or
I
just
appreciate it.
many reasons. Hours and hours have been covered, like helped me through because of you.
No, thanks,
Yeah,
man.
don't do that. Even your old videos, man, they're great. There's nothing wrong with them.
Wait,
I know how it is because I look at mine and they all suck. The way I feel when I look at it, everybody says they hate the sound of their own voice and their own videos. But I'm telling you, as an outsider, I've been watching you for a long time. It's good stuff, like really good stuff.
Thank you.
That's funny because when Sheldon and I, since we've started traveling, usually we've been traveling around. Either Sheldon's coming down to a historical event, or we're going out to see Duke or something. We were on the road at the same time, and it got to where I think we were just judging miles by Wild West Extravaganza episodes, and we would just
Let's see what the dummy's talking about now.
And we just have a conversation back and forth the whole time about
yeah, because back in September when we went down to go visit Duke, I started listening to your Kit Carson, and I watched all of them, and I was like, "Oh, watch the new one when it comes out." I think that's
bing.
And then I think I listened to it on the way back, or
okay,
no, but I was there listening to it, and when you know, that's as much into Kit Carson I ever did. Ever got into. I was like, man, like my Navajo relatives would be looking for this guy, ready to lynch him.
Oh,
oh damn.
Because
there's two subjects I know that's interesting. We were talking about that, how that Josh has took the Brushy Bill deal because it's so controversial and made a lot of subscribers and viewers out of it. There's two things on the historical internet you don't want to say. Brushy Bill, historic YouTube channels. You don't want to say that Billy the Kid's dead, and you don't want to say that the Walker might not be the most powerful revolver.
I know exactly where that was going.
I knew you did too. See, Jake's got a video kind of similar to that where the whole video is built just on people come at me, bro. And I checked the other day, and surprisingly, it's like number 8 on now your most popular videos because it just keeps on going. It never stops.
You'd be amazed how many. And yeah, go ahead, Garrett.
But I think it kind of started with Duke, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, here, but Duke was like, somebody needs to make a video because I think that the Colt single action army and 45 Colt with the full load and the full length barrel is more powerful than the Walker. And then it kind of passed around, and we were all kind of like, hey, Jake, you want to make this video? Because none of us want to.
Yeah, boy, I fell for that one, didn't I?
That's the way to do it, man. I mean, so I think one of my biggest viewed videos, everything. So I got 2 that are controversial, and I know exactly why. The people are hate watching them, basically. So, and I don't want to start any arguments with anybody, but I did an episode a long time ago on Bloody Bill Anderson. And I did this on purpose. I knew it was going to be controversial, but I was like, listen, the Civil War was fought over slavery. Okay, I'm not going to discuss it. That's it. Argument's over. The Civil War was fought over slavery. Anyway, so let's talk about Bloody Bill Anderson. And just the amount of people that
that'll do it.
I reeled them in with that one. And
that'll do it.
I did and I did not do this other one on purpose, but when I did a series on Jim Bridger, one of the episodes is titled something dumb like Jim Bridger versus the Mormons. And I used for the thumbnail that really cool photo of Porter Rockwell.
Yeah.
And I knew it was Porter Rockwell. There's only so many photos of Jim Bridger. Like the episode, the video before that was Jim Bridger versus the Blackfeet, and I used the Blackfeet Warrior for the thumbnail.
Yeah.
But so many people will hit me up and tell me, hey, that's it's not Jim Bridger, right? I'm like, yeah, I know. But,
that's the second part of the title.
Yeah, use the wrong thumbnail and then say something controversial and.
Well, it's interesting how you can bring people in on that because of all the people here, if you asked all of us about the Civil War, we would all have different takes and different stances on different things. And I always had a lot of respect for you because I come from a lot of things from more of a Confederate view. My viewers all know this. Everybody knows it. And you knew it too. But when you made a video, and I believe it was on Bloody Bill Anderson, and I was listening to it, one of the first ones I ever heard you made, where you actually brought up the point that you were like these guys or not, go back and listen to Waylon Jennings' old Unreconstructed song.
Great song.
Yeah, and you said, now come back to this to this story with that viewpoint. And I was like, we can disagree on a lot of things, but you just said something right there that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen to this guy because he's willing to look at both sides of this particular issue, just whether we agree or not. Just to give that little detail out, I was like, okay, he knows. He knows how to do this.
Every one of my people that were of age back then, they all fought for the Confederacy. Every single one of them. I'm not ashamed of that. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up going to a Baptist church. If I grew up in India, I would have probably gone to a Hindu temple or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a lot.
Yep.
A lot of people fought for the North in the Civil War because they were born in Michigan. A lot of people fought for the South in the Civil War because they were from Texas. I think if I ever say anything like that could be like misconstrued as negative about the Confederate Army, people think I'm talking about their great granddaddy, and I'm not. It would be like now saying that I think it was dumb that we went to Vietnam and fought a war, right? My own father fought in Vietnam. Utmost respect for all Vietnam veterans. Just because I don't agree with the war doesn't mean I have anything against the soldiers. Ain't got nothing to do with it, man. Most of the time, they were doing what they were told. They were doing their duty. Whether whether we agree with it in hindsight or not, it's these other people that started the war that I'm usually talking about.
But yeah, when you brought up Waylon and the old Unreconstructed, you're probably the only YouTuber I've ever heard mention that song. And I
listened to it just yesterday. I was watching part of it. I was watching an old clip from the assassination of Jesse James where they sing it in there.
Yeah,
that song will give me goosebumps every time, man.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
yeah, because you're.
Well, at least you guys are lucky. When people always bring up the Civil War, they actually sometimes are actually talking about my great granddaddy. So it's like, it gets deep.
Oh.
But
yeah,
anyway.
I'm related to Hood. General Bellhood. I'm a direct descendant. No,
we were headed down the path of the Walker. I really wanted to talk about that Walker, Jake. That Walker.
Do it. Let's ruin somebody's day.
Oh, because Jake made the video, obviously, where he really went beyond a shadow of a doubt, proving that it wasn't the most powerful revolver until the 357 Magnum. Because he just, every single day, he still gets a comment. There's somebody. The most famous comment is, you are shooting a replica revolver, and those cylinders are way smaller. Somebody the other day was like, yeah, Colt shortened the cylinder by 1/4 inch, and all Walker replicas are 1/4 inch short. I wanted to comment back and say, so you mean all Dragoons are now a 1/2 inch short?
He gets the craziest, and the comments are like just out there too. You think if you were going to comment something, you would do a tiny bit of research on what you're going to spew out? Nah.
That's the part I always get a kick out of is that they are 100% positive when they fire that comment off. Like they know what they're talking about. I'm the idiot. They know what they're talking about. Which I might be an idiot anyway, but that's beside the point.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I mean, we should have added the whole, like, if you ever do a second part to that video, definitely add in the measurements, the actual real measurements, so then you get that stupid comment gone.
I did in that video when we checked all of the 3 of ours, because remember I was like, I need you guys to measure this stuff for me and get back to me.
Yep.
I put that in there and I ended up editing it out so it wasn't an hour long, which in hindsight I would have rather had it in there, but.
And then comparing it to an original Dragoon that has the same, that would have actually had a Walker cylinder. Pretty sure that was a Walker cylinder on mine originally.
Yeah, that's been cut down.
If you measure the depth of the end of the chamber to the bottom of the ratchet, you can actually correlate the lengths if you added all that up. And they're spot on. I mean, they're so close to the replica that there's not enough difference to make a difference. And yet, every single time you get a comment, it's like they had bigger.
Well, the chambers are just shorter. The chambers are shorter on the replicas.
Where do you get that information? You know, it's like, how do you know this?
because I watched a video where another guy said it was the most powerful revolver until the 357.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I just remember. I remember because we were discussing this before you made it, and I told you prepare for the Colt CULT of Walker, and that's been a thing ever since then. Because I had been making Colt videos for a while since then, and there's one thing you don't touch is in people's mind is their Walker revolver power. And I knew when you made it, I was like, this is just going to sit back and enjoy the ride.
It's almost as bad.
Yeah, you basically hypothetically just went up and slapped somebody's mom in the face. That's how upset they are when they hear the Walker wasn't the most powerful.
You would think I did that with the angry comments I get about it.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Dick?
I said it's almost as bad as talking smack about the Remington revolver.
Yeah, those guys get serious too about it.
Very serious.
Oh God, you should have seen the hate I got on that little short I did where I sit there and use my Remington to drive a nail into the wall. And then the hate I got when I cocked it and I used it to open a beer bottle.
Hey, I guarantee you there was more of those original guns used as hammers and beer openers than people would ever want to think. There's so many single action armies or even like 51 navies, 1860 armies, all of that look like they have been used as a hammer at once on the buttstock.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Plowboy's in. He said that Bloody Bill video was the first of Josh's that I commented on, and he said I'm still unreconstructed. Very good. I'll go through a few of these before we. Let's see.
Yeah, think about that, Duke. That'd actually be the most original thing you could do to a replica was use it as a hammer.
Yeah, classic guns today. Hi, he said American History 101. America started at Ellis Island, and everything prior to that is incidental, except for the Revolution, the Constitution, the Civil War, and Little Bighorn and Wounded Knee. Yeah. He said, according to modern education. Cesar said, I got sick of hearing about Ellis Island in school. The reason they teach it is so obvious even to kid me, or the reason they dwell on it, rather. Let's see. The Constitution and the Founding Fathers is a generic sense of flag waving. Yeah, they're just talking back and forth there. Mill Creek Range said, man, I have put down a lot of miles driving listening to Josh. Oh, yeah. How you feeling, Benji? I knew he was in the hospital. He said, I actually listened to him last week when I was in the hospital after my back surgery. Listening to Josh while on heavy drugs definitely puts a different perspective on his story.
I hope you have a good recovery, man.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear about that.
Let's see. Soylent Green said, people get so angry in the comments when people are using any other black powder than just 3F. They have to share it 15 times that I use 3F for everything. I find 2F to be the most useful, but I really don't under anything under 50 caliber. So,
well, clearly you're just doing it wrong.
Sometimes I don't know if Jake's a proponent of 3F for everything, or you kind of went back and forth on that, haven't you?
Do I use 3F for everything? Yeah, almost, yeah.
You use it in your brown vest?
Yeah, I'll use it in my brown vest, absolutely. That thing will eat anything. It doesn't care.
When I had a brown vest, I loaded 100 grains of 3F, and that thumped a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good start, yeah.
So I managed, and I told Garrett this, but I managed to crack the stock and the brass trigger guard. I broke that in two on the Pedersoli by putting an unknown amount of powder into it.
An unknown amount of powder?
Yeah, I had
my. Like we were drunk, really drunk.
No, this is just me being an idiot. And I had my powder flask. I had my Colt, pistol flask.
Yeah.
And I shook it, and I was like, "Oh, it's almost empty." I might as well dump it in there. And I dumped it in there, and I didn't put nothing on top of it because I was like, if I do that, it might explode. And I shot it, and I shot it. It left my hand, broke skin. I was cussing. That was loud. I was serious, and I told Gary, I was like, you know what? I could see why a lot of those trade guns went kablooey. So 100 and something years later, almost 200 years later, All the
You know,
cool
it makes you
still
wonder.
screwing up muskets like that.
You know, not every Indian had carried a powder measure on his pony, so
Yeah.
you know we've talked quite a bit about how you load from the spit load. But
Oh,
are you
this was
telling me,
just
Jake, you've never loaded an unmeasured amount of powder into a firearm and pulled
No,
the
this
trigger?
was just opening it up and then pouring into the barrel and just letting it sit until it went empty. And I was like, man, this is a lot more powder and it's in there. I should empty it. Nah.
Nah, it'll be fine.
Boom. And yeah, I started cussing like.
That's interesting. I've had this discussion on recoil for black powder because I get so tired of people always telling me black powder can't recoil you.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, the most recoil I ever felt was a Brown Bess 73 caliber, 584 grain ball, I think, tight fitting ball, 200 grains of 1F.
Oh yeah, that'll do.
And what happens is the powder in the back starts burning, and all that powder that's in the front adds to the weight of the ball as it starts to push down. So the powder charge, it's funny when you do an energy calculator why you have to put the weight of the powder charge in there, I never thought about that, but that weight is adding to the weight of the ball and the recoil. And so it's like, I think I did the measurements on that, and it was 72 foot-pounds of recoil. Like, it was elephant rifle recoil. So, yeah.
There's one day, 4th of July, I shoot my Brown Bess off. And I thought, well, I'll just do 300 grains because I was shooting blanks. No ball in there. I was just using wet paper towel. I thought 300 grains, it's not going to kick. I'll just make a louder boom. 300 grains kicked harder than any ball I ever shot out of it.
Yeah.
Come out the muzzle. It was the biggest fireball I'd ever seen come out of a muzzle loader. I thought I fired a cannon.
And he said, "Happy Independence Day."
That wasn't what I was yelling. It was more like a holy SIG, you know the rest. But
mine parallels Duke's pretty well. I still got the barrel on those Pedersoli is really good because there's no, the barrel's still fine, but the stock is cracked.
Then my dog that I was trying to train to, be a hunting dog, after that shot, anytime a gun comes out, she dives under the bed or whatever else.
That was the end of the training, huh?
That was the end of it right there.
I think the most recoil I ever felt with a black powder round was 5.77 Snyder, because if you don't put any wads or filler in a 5.77 Snyder case, they'll hold like 120 grains.
Yeah.
With a 550 grain mini ball on top of it. And I still have it, a Nepalese Snyder. And so I loaded that stuff up and I fired one of those rounds off and it split the stock and broke it clean off right at the butt through the wrist.
Wow.
And knocked my hat off and came out of my hand. And after that, I pulled those other ones apart. So
holy cow.
I don't know how fast it was moving. I wasn't chronographing it or anything, but it
taking the chronograph out.
Yeah.
We have legitimately caused the chronograph to never operate again with that 200 grain charge from really close range. I don't know what it did to it. It was a cheap chronograph.
It rattled it to death.
It might have been just because it was I think it was only like at 4 or 5 feet, and I think the blast going through it it never read again ever. I don't know what happened.
If it was close enough, it might have black powder residue over the sensors.
It might have. It very well might have. I don't know. We had a different one.
You should have just done what Jake did and just threaten it with violence until it starts working.
That always worked eventually.
It's true. It did. It always did work eventually.
But
Speaking of which, how is that radar one? Is that thing been like?
It's
real
so
good?
bitchin'. It's so great. As long as you have the barrel where it says like between 12 and 15 inches high or left or whatever, it'll read every time. If you're standing a little too far forward, sometimes it won't read, but as long as you're standing where it wants you to, it reads every time.
Yeah, that's rare. You get used to the old chronographs. That's rare.
What are you going to say, Duke?
I was going to say those little green chronographs. I can't remember what the name of it is. The brand is
Caldwell.
Caldwell, yeah, them. those are so sensitive to any kind of mess up, light, anything. Like you got to use them at a certain time of the day, or else you got to turn little light bars up on top of them. But I shot my Remington over it way too close, and it got black powder smoke over the sensors, and I had to go in there with a Q-tip and clean them off to get it to work again.
That's what I was using that Caldwell first. Caleb wanted one of those that are upside down with the reader on the top.
Yeah.
And I told him we shoot Colt cap and ball revolvers. There's no way we were putting the actual chronograph above the target.
Yeah.
You will shoot it. But that Caldwell was the first thing I went out and made a video on, and I was testing the Southern Mountain Rifle, and I'm sure glad Jake caught me on it because the wind was blowing, it was rattling the visors, and I went from a 2F charge to a 4F charge and picked up 400 feet per second. I was like, holy cow. I was like, this thing really is shooting. And Jake texted me, and he's like, you might want to reevaluate that just a little bit. I was like, it was consistently wrong.
Yeah.
But that was when I finally figured it out. If it was windy, that thing would read high. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I never heard of that anywhere else.
And the other thing I found out on them Caldwells is you have to shoot north-south orientation.
Oh, really?
Because if the sun's too low one way or the other, the light, it creates a shadow over those sensors, and they won't pick it up. Because, Jake, I think I remember you had a video with one of those, and you were sitting there shooting it, and it wouldn't read anything at all.
It was in a shadow. Like there was a tree or something had a shadow over it, and I kept firing and firing. It would not read. I was cussing up a storm and threatening it with violence and all kinds of stuff. Wouldn't work.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on there, but then I seen the video where you got the new one. I'm like, turn it 90 degrees and your problem will be solved.
Well,
yeah, my first chronograph was a Caldwell. I executed that one.
You know,
like the threads finally added up.
What's interesting though is Ethan, where he works, I can't remember the brand name, but he has a fairly high end. It's not a radar red or anything, but chronograph that they actually use indoors, and it works until you get up to 45-70 pressure, and then it doesn't work anymore because I think it's because it's like a soundproof indoor range.
It was. There's a sonic boom or something going on in front of it. I mean, like a nuclear blast or something. I thought it wouldn't read that deal.
Yeah, but what's funny is once you get down to trapdoor loads, it'll read all of them.
Yeah.
They're smokeless trapdoor loads, which is a whole different subject. But once you get down there, or pistol caliber rounds, or even like, I don't think they allow 308 in there, but like 223, it'll even read. But I always never understood that, how you can't work them in the shade, but you can work it in the indoors.
The lighting.
Yeah.
Comes
I don't know, man. I don't have any complaints about that Garmin one that we have, man. It works every time.
I only have one complaint. It costs as much as a new handgun.
Okay, well, fair enough.
It's worth it for what Jake's doing is definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's probably paid for itself a few times over by now.
Josh, what is your favorite Old West firearm?
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. I wouldn't know, dude, because I've
the Walker.
Very few of them. Oh, the Walker. Yeah.
The Walker.
I've been obsessed with lever actions my entire life, but I mean, I've only owned like 30-30s. I've shot a 45-70 in the past, but I couldn't say, man. I'll tell you which one I don't like. That little revolver rifle. You know what I'm talking about? It's got a long barrel and it's got a stock and everything.
You're either
the Remington carbine?
Yes.
Oh.
And I have no reason to not like it other than I just don't like the way it looks.
Have you ever watched El Dorado?
Yeah.
You don't like Bull's 1855? It is definitely something you have to grow on, and it has to grow on you. And in its original configuration, it was pretty deadly to both you, the shooter, and the shootee.
Well, I bet.
Because you get a chain fire, which those never happen around here. But if you get a chain fire, you're going to take your fingers off, because the old cap and ball revolvers, they chain fire a lot. And so you can't hold it out there. You have to hold it in a weird way behind the cylinder.
It's funny you bring that up. Sorry, I keep looking down because this freaking prompter's not working. I gotta go, but I have a question. You mentioned you've been talking about black powder and shooting your finger off and everything. Jesse James shot one of his fingertips off. Okay.
Yeah.
Supposedly he was either cleaning his pistol or loading it when it happened. Option 3, it could have possibly happened in battle, but those are the two main theories. I gotta go. I'm gonna be listening to y'all. I would like to hear your best theories of how he blew his finger off.
I got it.
Just going from your own experience handling black powder weapons. But all right, y'all. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. I'll see y'all later.
Thank you for coming on. We sure appreciate it.
Take care, Josh.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking this is Civil War because I've heard that story too. I always assumed it was Civil War, and in the Civil War, he notoriously carried an 1860 Army.
I think that'd be pretty likely. He's getting shot at, and he'd lose a tip of his finger.
Well, I thought he got shot off in one of the early robberies after the Civil War.
Maybe it was. But
I can't think of a way you shoot himself in the finger.
Right?
When you're cleaning it or loading it.
Now,
I couldn't see cleaning. I could see maybe loading or taking it, like unloading it, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. That would be. I've never had. That'd be weird.
I would think it had to do with his occupation being a bank robber, train robber, and all that other stuff. But
this happens fairly early on. I think this happens in the Civil War, and it's not unheard of because we always assume when we shoot cap and ball revolvers, you shoot all 6 shots, you clean your gun, right? Well, they maybe shot 1 or 2 shots, and they're not going to dump.
Good point.
And they might not even take the caps off. So you might have a live cylinder sitting there with the hammer on half cock, spinning it around, drop your powder and your bullet in there or your paper cartridge or vice versa. Supposing you have a hammer fall and you got your hand up there on the ramrod, there's all kinds of ways I think it could happen.
Okay. Good
That's
point.
my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah, supposedly that's how he got the nickname Dingus.
Yep.
But according to Google AI, it was while he was cleaning his pistol.
Okay, that would get a little bit more difficult. I always just assumed it was loading a half or topping off a cap.
Unless he was really drunk.
Well, it's
hard to think cleaning it. I don't know, man.
He was known to drink beer, but he was never known to be drunk. Is an interesting thing. He is not to drink. I believe whiskey was.
I just can't imagine at one time he would be able to have his finger in front of the cylinder. Because it's just kind of difficult to do unless you were holding it in a weird way. Like say he was loading it, right? And he was just holding the whole thing, like gripping around the cylinder.
If you have
somehow popped it.
I can't grab one, but if you have a few chambers loaded and you're loading that bottom chamber and you reach up there and it's still capped and you reach up there at the end of the barrel to grab the loading lever, it's possible, I believe.
I mean, I'm sure there's many ways it's possible. It's just it seems to be unlikely for somebody who'd know what they were doing.
It was this finger he shot off.
Well,
which one was it? His ring finger?
Yeah. Bear in mind,
if you actually
during the Civil War, he may not have known what he was doing. He was pretty young.
Yeah.
Still learning.
I can tell you, I wish it was a way we could show him on, because at least if you could hold the pistol, see if there's any way that you would put your finger in that area. And while loading,
the pistol with a rag and he's wiping down the barrel clear of the muzzle, that finger goes in front of it. It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't figure it out because I got an airsoft right now. And
just don't bring the camera. They don't like it.
No. It made like a little snippet while I was bringing it across.
That's one thing I wish they would change, because it's absolutely ridiculous that you can't have anything like that on live.
That is interesting. I've heard that before, and I've thought about it.
I can't see it.
And you think when we talk about the experienced, because we think everybody's experienced. When you think about that time period, like especially Oregon Trail, California Trail travel, I would say 50% of the casualties taken on that were people shooting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It happened a lot.
I could see if it was maybe like these.
Yeah.
Because I I don't see it. But
It's just difficult.
There's also the possibility maybe he's just wiping it down, drops in it, and it goes off. That happened a lot too.
No.
Yeah.
You drop a cap on a rock, it's not too hard to do.
I mean, just people, like you said, the Oregon Trail and stuff, people just getting out their wagons, went off. That's why
The most-
was it the Prairie
A
Traveler?
scary amount of people shot themselves in the face getting off their wagons back then.
Was it the Prairie Traveler tells people to take caps off?
Yep.
Yep.
John Harton's dad shot through the back by dropping the gun.
Ringo's Johnny Ringo's father.
dad. I was
Ringo.
just thinking
he took his head
of
off
that
getting off
snapper.
the
Johnny
wagon.
Ringo's happened to Johnny Ringo's dad. Yeah.
That most interesting story is called Across the. What's that called? It was written by a woman. Duke knows it. Across the Prairies in 1860. She talks about how they ran to a bunch of their prairie chickens out in the prairie, and a bunch of the younger guys and the young boys grabbed their shotguns, which were cap locks at the time, and they run out to the front of the wagon train and start shooting these prairie chickens. Well, one guy cannot for the life of him get his gun to go off. And he's just a young kid. And so he gets frustrated with it. The caps are snapping. The gun won't go off. He takes the caps off, throws it in the back of the wagon. And it's something to the tune of 6 or 7 hours later, that wagon hits a bump. The hammer drops on the nipple with enough force to cause a spark. The gun goes off and kills a guy that's standing there as the wagon's going by. And they're like, "Why did you leave a cap on that gun?" And he said, "I did not leave a cap on that gun." And they looked, there was no cap, but there was a spark area where a spark had gone down in the nipple from the hammer striking the nipple and hit just as it was a guy was passing by, killed him dead. It's like, how many things could go wrong for that to happen?
Yeah.
It could have been too if they were ill-fitting caps, as the mercury fulminate rubbed off enough.
It could have been that too.
On that nipple.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
A little bit of mercury fulminate would just stay there inside of that nipple.
Yeah.
And when it hit it, it set that off. Just thinking about Johnny Ringo's dad, though. Apparently, he I want to say he was like a 13, if I remember right. He was a young kid, and he saw it happen right in front of him. And I was like, I couldn't imagine how bad that would mess somebody up, seeing their father lose their life like that.
But that's interesting when you actually look at it. That's like 50% of firearms casualties are just people shooting themselves because they don't know how to. We got a new gun. We're headed west, and we don't know how to use it.
Well, and then there's another one in the Covered Wagon Women series where a lady's talking about her husband was getting out of the wagon and they had a shotgun just sitting in the wagon and it fell over and the hammer caught and smacked down on that cap and blew his head clean off.
Mm-hmm. Happens a lot. It's interesting because even that 1835 muzzleloading shotgun I got up there, it's got a wrist safety on it because evidently, that's a thing. People shooting themselves a lot.
I know it was just real
I can definitely tell you, though, it is really nice having a cap lock double barrel shotgun. They are a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun for anybody who's never had one. I highly, highly recommend them. They're fun.
I've never owned one.
You're gonna have to.
Did you shoot mine when you came down? I don't think we did.
We did not shoot that one.
Just like two brown besses tied together.
Oh, they're fun little. Honest to God, when I got mine, I wasn't expecting that much from it because I've never been a shotgun person. I really want to get a break open shotgun, not exposed hammer break open shotgun. But when I got that thing, I was surprised at how fun it was to shoot. It was just a little sweetheart of a rifle or shotgun.
I was always into doubles.
It turned into one of the things the wife didn't like, but then she actually started liking it when she'd shoot it. So yeah, I highly recommend them. They're fun.
The one double barrel muzzleloader I'm not very fond of is the double barrel flintlock, though. That thing takes so much.
I bet.
So much stuff going on that gun. I even sold my pistol, but I had the pistol and Caleb had the 20 gauge shotgun and he still has his, but it's like there is so much stuff going on in a package that should be this narrow, but it's this wide. Mm-hmm. Let's get through a few of these comments here. Let's see. Benji said, I'm doing much better now. 1 week post-op today. Plowboy
Nice.
said, my grown son's got a real kick out of Josh's episode on a distant relatives of ours, Clay Allison. Cool.
Oh.
Classic Guns today. Say goodnight, y'all. Enjoyed y'all's discussion. Soylent Green said Rivero 311 shot a double ball load in his best, and that thing nearly flew out of his hands.
I saw that.
I like a double ball load. Historically, it's funny how often that shows up. It used to be people were like, oh, they misloaded it, but no, it's a thing now.
It was a
People
thing.
load 2 ball, which is funny because you increase your recoil, you slow your speed by half. So, especially out of a handgun. Soylent Green said, you guys are there. There's a knockoff Garmin now for half the price called an Athlon Rangecraft. Athlon Rangecraft? Have you heard of this?
Nope.
Rangecraft?
No,
One Rangecraft. No.
I have to look into that.
Yeah, it's Soylent Green, and you had those 9,000 feet per second 4570 loads from that Rossi. Yeah, when it was reading that, I was just said, Ethan, I'm impressed with your recoil management, son. Milk Creek Crane said, I executed my Caldwell with my trapdoor, went to the Garmin, love the Garmin. David W. said, hello, guys, good to see you. Sub MOA said, the light activated chronographs see the shadows cast by the bullet. Alex Miller said, wow, this is an all-star bash. Snapper, give Josh your train robbing mask. I can't get him to wear a hat. Cesar said, he was probably fiddling with his revolver with guys with guns do and blew the fingertip off. Felt wads can do a number to the faceplate of your chronograph. They seem soft and pliable, but at velocity, they cut a nice, decent crescent shape in the faceplate.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I've never seen that before.
Yep.
Really? Huh. They're like
Yeah.
cards or just felt wads?
Like the felt wads.
Yeah?
Yeah, even out of a pistol, they'll
Really?
they'll hit the front of it and dent it.
Huh. I guess that's why you don't shoot each other with blanks, right? Complex Patriot said, hey, gentlemen and scoundrels, great to see you all at the same time. When are one of you guys going to teach us how to make caps? Snapper already did that, I think.
You know,
I have a really old video of doing that.
You know, I saw something on
They
Reddit,
make a little.
and this guy was making 3D printed caps, and they were going off.
I would actually work. As a matter of fact, what I found that works. It's really messy, but it does work. If you usually when you make them, you use the little cap lock. You know, the little toy guns you had as a kid. The little.
Yeah.
You know, you'd stick on there and they go pop, pop, pop. And you could use those to reload and make cap locks. And those actually are the same size as a nipple, the plastic little ends. If you cut those off, they'll fit on a nipple and they will go off. And they actually work. They're a little light, so sometimes you have to add a little bit of black powder behind it to make them, strong enough to set the firearm off. But in a pinch, they work. They actually work. You can just stick one off cut one off the little ring. And just stick one on a nipple, and it works just fine. Like I said, so sometimes you have to put a little bit of black powder on them to get them to constantly set an actual, charge off. But normally you don't have to.
You know, we were making caps
They're a
years
pain in the butt
ago
to get off, though.
when we couldn't find caps. We were making them some years ago. We bought that 22 reloader
Cap maker?
kit or whatever.
Yeah.
And it worked. They seemed about as reliable as any CCI or Remington caps, but man, it is a pain.
I was about to say.
It is a pain.
It is, man. It was one of those things that just
It's like
made me
45
appreciate
minutes
being
and you
able
have
to
20
buy
of them.
caps even better. And now anytime I see them, man, I bought 1,000 musket caps a week or so ago.
Yeah.
It's like they were available. It's like I'm just buying them, man. I hate making caps. I'll make powder all day long. I have a good time with that, but caps are just a chore.
I love
They are. It
shooting
takes a
a
long time.
revolver, but I don't love it that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I have a hard enough time making myself make paper cartridges when I can just pour some powder in a round ball in there.
Me too.
And everybody's like, but it's saves you so much time at the range. I'm like, yeah, I spend 5 hours at home. That way at the range, I'm done in 3 minutes.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I know people like it, and I'm sure Hugh's hammering out a comment right now about it. But You know, I don't know. I don't mind loading loose powder and ball. It works
No,
for me just fine.
I have
Not just
I
for
have his
fun.
It
book
probably
on
saves you the
paper
same amount of
cartridges.
takes you the same amount of time. It's just you offset it either at home or at the range.
Yeah, like I have reloaded like a bunch of paper cartridges for my Navy and the Army, but
Yeah.
it's like it's just not my thing. And yeah, I even bought that Hughes book on paper cartridges, but I'm just reading like that. That's a lot of work for.
Yeah. See, it's funny. Is
I do
people
want to try
back then,
those skin cartridges. I still been
soldiers
wanting to try
had
that.
soldiers had a government to do that for them.
Right.
But yeah, no, there's a couple things that I'm not gonna ever get into probably, and it's making caps unless I have to. But it's like that's literally why I bought a flintlock pistol in the first place when caps got hard to find. I was like, I'm just gonna shoot a flintlock pistol and call it good just to scratch the black powder itch.
Like I don't know. With the paper cartridges, I didn't find fun. I think even with just like I still have a bunch of caps from. I think some of them are even 5 years old. I just haven't shot just because I don't go shooting as much, and then after maybe 2-3 cylinders, I'm like, I'm done.
Yep,
But
that's for sure. It's kind of interesting you're talking about the musket caps. I'm getting lazy in that department too because all my long guns I've converted to musket caps just because they're so easy to handle.
I found one tin of musket caps, and they were RWS. So
Yeah,
my Lehman, when I first bought it, came with a nipple for musket caps, but I still have it, but I took it off for one that uses number 10s because I couldn't find musket caps. But now I'm finding musket caps, so it's like.
I find it easier usually to find musket caps than small caps.
Like I know the local Cabela's has a bunch of number 11s.
Yeah, I just have to stay away. I get people catch flack on this all the time and always be like, "You can shoot those CCI reenactor caps." I do it all the time. I've never been successful with CCI reenactor caps. They're just not hot enough. But people always tell me I must be doing something wrong because I guess they're great.
I've never even tried those.
That's what I was using. I had a tin of them. I don't know where I got them, but it says reenactor use right on the tin.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know if these are going to work, but I was using them in my 1842 rifle musket, and it went off every time.
Well, that's a good deal.
So it's the same thing. It's just less
had a couple
powerful.
bad batches.
I don't know what the
Is
difference
it the same thing and less powerful, or are they just slapping stickers on the exact same product saying it's for something else?
No,
I don't know.
RWS, and they advertise hot, not reenactors. I don't know exactly.
Wasn't
what
it Mike Bellevue mentioned that the RWS musket caps are steel?
Steel caps?
Yeah,
Really?
I think they're steel.
I think it was Mike Bellevue who mentioned that those are.
Oh,
steel.
maybe for the.
I don't come across them where I live.
Because the musket caps aren't.
Yeah, it's the musket caps.
Oh, I don't think mine are steel.
Yeah, I was just looking at some. I have some old RWSs, and they're not steel. Maybe the new ones are or something. But
I think it was a Facebook post he made or something. But he was talking about them being steel or something, saying they're not brass or whatever, copper. But I have a tin, but I left it in my truck, which is in the shop, so I'll get it when it's done.
I've been using RWS 1075s for cap and ball revolvers the last couple weeks in a row, and they seem to work well. I don't have any complaints at all. In fact, I think they fit a little bit better than the Remington 11 or CCI 11s.
Tins.
They do. They fall right between Remington 10 and 11s, and they're better than CCI 11s. It's the length on them.
I hate CCI 11s.
I mean,
It's the only thing you can get rid of. They don't fit originals for crap.
I mean, RWS is European, and all of our revolvers are European, so it kind of makes sense.
It does. I just want Ely's double waterproofed.
Right.
I want the original caps. That's what I want somebody to make. Actual 2-spec original caps. Nobody's ever.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. The only time I ever see those are in those. They're crazy expensive for a 10 of the originals. I once thought about it, just buying it just to have it in the display, but it was too much money for me.
If these companies are going to go to the trouble of making them, why not make them like the originals? That's the whole point, I thought.
Yeah, it would be cool. It would actually be really cool if they actually made it to spec. I think they make them to spec now for like inlines. I think that's what they really make them for. Instead of cap and balls and whatnot. It seems to me that they more spec them for inline rifles.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I saw that like several states banned those fire sticks, and it's just like, man, if you just want to shoot cartridges, shoot a cartridge.
Yeah. I got flack for that a lot too, because I've made a couple videos on that, but it's called traditional. Why do you want to shoot the system so hard? Smoked it or scoped inline.
Like I was watching.
Yeah, it's like
Clay.
Use a regular rifle.
That's his name. What? I forgot his name, was like Clay something. He does a lot of primitive archery stuff, but he does elk hunts with a flintlock.
Oh, Clay Hayes.
Yeah.
Hunt primitive.
Yeah. And he's sitting there getting elk and stuff with a flintlock and with just some buckhorn sights.
That would be cool.
And it's like
flintlock hunting, or
isn't he the one that took a buffalo with an atlatl?
Maybe.
Oh yeah, that's Gil.
Yeah, that's hunt primitive.
Yeah, that's hunt primitive.
Yeah, this Clay Hayes. He does like I said, a lot of primitive archery and stuff, but like he does like flintlock and stuff. Like he has, I think he just uploaded one where it's like a coyote hunt one video and the other one was an elk hunt. But yeah, he's going after elk and stuff with the flintlock, and it is like a Pennsylvania style flintlock. So
yeah, I caught it because a bunch of these muzzleloader seasons now are starting. They're fighting to let in straight wall cartridges and single shots because they're black powder, even though nobody's using black powder.
Yeah.
And I got into one guy, and I was like, it was I think it was in Tennessee. It's like it was flintlock season, then it was traditional season, and then it was muzzleloader season, and now it's just anybody with a single shot, right? And he was like, he commented, "You just hate the 4570. You don't know the 4570's history." I sat back.
Oh wow!
I cracked my knuckles.
Wow, that's what you get out of that. Out of that whole conversation, that's what you get out of that.
You don't understand how historical the 4570 cartridge is. I was like,
it's historical.
All right. This is the kind of comment I can sink my teeth into.
I would say if you want primitive hunting, I truly think that even cap would be a little bit too much. I would think flintlock would be the ultimate way of going, where you actually feel like you did something.
Depending on where you're at in the country, if you're traditional hunting, muzzleloader hunting at the time was cap lock, sure. But like Pennsylvania, they have flintlock only. And I
think that would be the way to go. You actually felt like you did something. Like you actually very similar to what it would have been like back then. Because even like you don't have that much, lock time, with a cap locked in, versus a flintlock. So I think the skill of the actual hunt would be for flint.
The whole idea isn't to get another deer. The whole idea is supposed to be to tie you to your roots. And there is such night and day difference between, let's say, a flintlock smoothbore and a modern inline scoped rifle that, it might as well be a whole different. It might as well not even be called firearms. There, obviously, it's not. But might as well,
like I know Montana, they do not allow paper sharps. They do not allow them at all because because
it's a breach. Yep.
And the thing is, you can, if you want to use that thing, go use it in the regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could use it in rifle season.
Yeah. So let's see. Complex Patriot said, Jake, you have all that chemistry equipment. Let's make some mercury fulminate.
He's turning into the Breaking Bad of us.
I mentioned that to Derek, and the mercury thing really freaked him out.
Yeah, I imagine.
That was not something he was going to do.
It's funny. As soon as I read that comment and I saw the look on your face, I realized this has gone through his mind several times. Okay. Well, once you figure out how to make H110 and IMR 4198, let me know, because that's just like $70-80 a pound now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Let's see. Andrew Kelso said, "Hey guys, how are you all?" He said, "In a 45 Hawken rifle, what is the max charge in a round ball load? It depends on your gun. Depends on what your shoulder can handle. But I think Jake's the only one with a 45 caliber actual. Well, I have one, I guess, but I haven't pushed it. Thoughts, Jake?
The max charge? Are you pushing your luck or just are you hunting? I mean, sorry to answer a question with a question, but you know, you could put
a round ball load, so
you could put 300 grains in there, and I'm sure it'll hold together. I mean, you might not like it, but
yeah, we've taken an Indian-made smoothbore 20 gauge, a Fusey, loaded it up with 600 grains of 4F, and it didn't break. It did break in 1,000. Yeah. It did break in 1,000.
I think if you're using one ball or whatnot, not multiple, slowing the system down, creating more back pressure, I really don't think you could. I think you could fill the entire barrel up technically.
Here's
and you just make a big old flame out the front.
It will destroy your shoulder before it probably destroys the barrel, but the stock will go second.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have blown apart stocks before. Like we've all just been talking about splitting stocks and
As far as like maximum serviceable load that you're going to be able to use, I don't know, something like 100 or 120 grains, I guess.
Well, let's say ballistically, what's your preferred high-end ballistics for a 45 caliber round ball?
65 grains of 3F in my rifle.
Yeah,
I can't speak for all the other 45s, but in mine it's 65 grains of 3F.
And that's giving you roughly 1,800 feet per second.
No, that's 2,100 feet per second.
Oh, 2,100 feet with 65. Okay.
Yes.
How many grains is that round ball? Do you know?
128.
That's not bad. That's booking it for that cartridge.
Is that your Kibler?
Yeah. That whitetail I shot last month in Montana, that's what I used, was 65 grains of 3F balsa.
So what is so you're using a lighter charge when you do all your tests for your powder then when you get that?
Yeah, when I'm just shooting squirrels or even coyotes or something at, maybe 50 or 80 yards, I'll use 50 grains all day long. But when I was up there and we were looking around, I figured out pretty quick that I probably wasn't going to get under 100 yards shot. And so I upped it to 65, and that's what I was using.
Now, that is so interesting because you said 2,200 feet per second or 2,000?
21.
21. With 130 grain or whatever it was round ball, you're not terribly under 30-30 ballistics.
No, and in fact, Derek and I were talking about that. It's like it's pretty close to 30-30, if you can compare apples to oranges.
Yeah, because my 36 at 1,700 feet per second. I can't remember all the specs on it, but basically I was getting 9mm rifle or carbine performance.
Right.
So, and that's not, that's just, one is a squirrel rifle. Yours is not a squirrel rifle, no matter what anybody says.
I shot that doe at 130 yards, and it went right through her all the way.
Yeah.
In one side and out the other. So it's plenty powerful.
Yep, it's not.
That's one sweet rifle, man.
You're not going to do anything different with a 50 caliber and 100 grains of powder.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any more dead.
Yeah.
How far did she run? I think
about 10 yards into the wood line and went down.
Man,
she was just standing in front of the wood line, and I hit her, and of course, smoke clears and she's gone. And so, we walked all the way out there, and she walked into the wood line about 10 yards and was down.
So that has erased any doubt from your mind that a 45 round ball is not a good deer round.
No, it seemed to do fine. And my buddy Mike, we were dressing her out,
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I don't know, maybe next time I'll bring my 54 or something. And he says, look at the size of this hole.
Yeah.
He goes, look at this. He says, if I didn't know what you hit her with, and somebody said, what do you think this was? I would say 30-06 or 270.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Now, if I was moving up to elk, I might move up a little bit, but who knows? It might be fine.
Right. Well.
But you always have to have that excuse to get another one that you need a little more power.
Yeah. Right. We're going to put in for elk tags for Montana in March, and my buddy Len that I went up there with, he texted me the other day. He says, "What are you going to take up there?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to take my 54 flintlock or maybe my 50-70 trapdoor." And he goes, "Oh, wow, I feel really lame." I says, "Well, why?" And he goes, "Well, I was going to take my Tika 308 and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm just classic, I guess."
If you could get a video of you shooting an elk with that 68 trapdoor, that'd be sweet.
That would be sweet.
I reckon it'll do it.
Yeah, but you might.
I wish you would have got. That would have been cool if you'd have got footage of this last hunt.
I have pictures and a little bit of footage, but I didn't get the shot on camera or anything like that. But I have enough to put together probably a 3-minute video that, you know.
Yeah, just
That looked like one heck of a fun vacation for sure.
45 caliber is not a squirrel rifle.
Yeah, well, or it's a hell of a squirrel rifle.
Yeah, you kill a lot of squirrels. Oh, that's it. Yeah. No, man, it would be so cool to do it with either the flintlock or the trapdoor. But I've seen videos of elk being killed with a flintlock. I've never seen a video of an elk killed with a 50-70 trapdoor.
I thought that same thing. I thought that too.
Mm-hmm. Or any of the single shots or the Snyder or anything else, you know.
I thought Captain Ball had one with 45-70.
Yeah, he has one with an 1884. I mean, a lot of people have them with that 1884 45-70, but I'm talking about particularly the 50-70 round.
Oh, you said any trapdoor, so.
Yeah. Oh, did well.
Ooh.
Didn't you? Oh, Complex Patriot said $5. Well, thank you. He said, good show, gents. Let's see. Hawken rifle, what is the max charge for a round ball load? We kind of have that discussion.
Speaking of Hawken, Kibler is releasing the Hawken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. You guys watch the video on that?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen. That's funny because I kept telling everybody, like a couple of years ago, people would ask me, well, I'm saving up my money, going to buy a Pedersoli Hawken. And it's like $1,800 or something for it. And I tell them, just wait, Kibler's going to make one. People would tell me, Kibler's never going to make a cap lock gun. I said, just wait, he's going to make one. It's too much value in that gun to not make one. Here we are. We got one. I haven't seen the video. What's the specs on it?
It's geez, I forget all the particulars. One thing I caught for sure was it's going to be in 45 through 58, which I thought was kind of cool. Overall, it's a little longer. I forget if he said the barrel length was going to be 33 or 34, something like that. So overall, I think, you know, shorter than all of his other guns. Mm-hmm. But it's the first cap, and he said they're going to make it out of basically a Ketland lock. Mm-hmm. And other than that, he did say specifically it's not exactly a copy of a Hawken, but it's a more faithful copy of a Hawken than a lot of the Thompson Centers and all that other stuff.
Yeah. It'll be big. I kind of thought about it, and then I just I'm in the process of building a flintlock Hawken right now in 62 caliber if I ever get my barrel made. But I thought about it, and then I was like, there's enough Hawken content on the internet. You know, I want to do Lehman's. I want to do Northwest Ray guns. I want to do the English style guns of the time period. Iron mounted Virginian rifle. I would love to have that Hawken, but I think I'll put my money elsewhere this time.
Yeah, I was thinking about saving up this year and getting just another more attractable Lehman kit. I have one, but I mean it works, and you know it's not how I wanted it. But you know what I paid for it was the price of a kit. So
I'll be interested to see what the price point on that thing is going to be from Kibler, because I was thinking it would be cheaper. Now he hasn't come out and said what it's going to be, but you got a considerably shorter barrel. You have a half stock instead of a full stock, and you have a cap instead of a flint. So I'm kind of thinking it should be cheaper than, you know, the other ones. But
the only thing that can make it as expensive is historically wedges, half stock wedge rifles with hook breeches tended to be more expensive to make historically than the long barrel pin and loop guns, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't know if that would reflect today with the way they build stuff today.
Yeah, with all the CNC stuff, I kind of doubt it. But
yeah,
it'd be perfect for them with CNC. They'd be able to make that thing within, you know, tolerance of a 2 or 3 thousandths. right off the CNC, it'd be better than most hand fitted stuff.
Yeah.
I would like a Dickert rifle if he's going to make it more eventually. I hope he makes a Dickert rifle or something to that effect. But
Well, people have been asking him to make a Hawken for 4 or 5
Long
years
time.
now. So
yeah, Sheldon and I were talking about that just last night, and I was like, much as I'd like to see other guns, absolutely, if I was running that business, that's the gun I would make because it's going to make a killing of money.
you bet.
Because Jeremiah Johnson is alive and well today as it was in 1980 for a lot of people, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you talk about movies that have sold guns. Quigley sold Sharps, and Jeremiah Johnson has sold Hawkins.
Yep, that's it.
Or Hawken type rifles.
Yeah, Hawken-ish guns.
I used to call them HLOs, Hawken-like objects.
What are you reading, Duke?
Trying to find out where the guy shot himself in the head with a shotgun. I got to go through all of these books, all 10 of them, because I can't find it.
He's just skimming. Let's see. So Green said, I have an old CBA that had ignition issues, put a nipple on it to take musket caps, and no issues since. Yeah, people always tell me musket caps are not hotter than the other caps. I'm like, that really can't be true because there's a whole lot more fulminate.
Yeah, there's more compound in one of those.
Compounded. But if you look it up, people will always be like, they're no more hotter, no more chance of firing off again. I'm like, for me, that's not it. For me, it's they're easier to handle on like rifles and shotguns and stuff anyway. Let's see. Space Art said musket caps are a bit more common than 11s these days, but the 10s that are still a real rarity. RWS could be a bimetal copper plated steel. Could be. Shoots and caps are real caps. RWS are pure brass. Let's see. Is that what I've been shooting? Was of shoots and I think recently. Yeah.
I've been shooting? I don't remember.
It might be.
I remember seeing musket cap and steel or something.
I haven't seen them. They're not handy. Anyway, let's get through a few more of these comments, and then we'll shut her down, guys, here in about 15 minutes if you guys want to stay that long.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. So Green says, Snapper, I have to bust your chops. Does it say live, laugh above that behind you? Does it say live, laugh?
No, I think it just says love. It was the Christmas decorations the wife put out. These actually like metal and like little. This is like a little a little like nutcracker, and they hold like the your stockings.
That was the first thing
And
Sheldon said.
We're the kind of people that we take the Christmas lights down right about 2 weeks before we have to put them back up again. So I got to get the Christmas stuff down. Still up.
Yeah, you didn't have any guns in the background this time.
Yeah, I was like, I was running a little late. Plus, I'd have to take all this stuff down. So I figured this time I would just go without it.
That's funny enough. This may be one of the last live streams from this room, and I'm just now looking around thinking about the new place, and I'm thinking, I got to move all this.
Yeah, move all this.
Okay. Let's see. Barbarians use cartridges. Let's see. Complex Patriot asked, are there any decent magazines that cover black powder and 1800s weapons? Well, Old West magazine. There's not many magazines anymore that I can think of.
Yeah.
All that's
Old West is the only thing I can think of straight up.
What used to be
Guns of the Old West, I think they stopped publishing.
Yeah.
I think Black Rifle Cartridge magazine is like that one.
Because now people have YouTube videos.
Yeah.
The magazine world has fallen a long ways. There's not much out there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shot Shield said, I wrote a book on revolver cartridges. The single piece paper ones are simple to make. Still requires making them.
I have one thing I can tell you about, like when it came to muzzleloaders and natives back then, is either they time how much they pour down the barrel, or they get like a nice little amount on their hand, which deem enough and dump it out down the barrel. And depending on who it is, they'd use a buckskin patch, or they just throw a ball down.
Yeah.
Rocks, and call it. There you go, Jake. That can be one. Rocks.
Rocks, yeah.
Yeah, they're shoot rocks.
You know, I haven't tried that. I'll have to do that. Rocks.
That'll be an interesting video.
Carl already did it.
But we don't have Jake's.
Jeez, damn it.
Jake's professionalism of seeing how fast it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Well, Sheldon sent me a very interesting story the other day. He was reading about how the one kid had never shot a buffalo, so his dad sent him out with his cap lock rifle, shoot this buffalo off horseback, and he's running it in circles and shooting at it. I don't know if he's hitting it, but pretty soon the dad shows up on the far hill with an old flintlock, and one shot takes the buffalo down. That's how you hunt buffalo.
Oh, he said he never. That was Wolf Chief Hidatsa, and he said he had the cap lock. His dad had the flintlock, and he never shot that gun because he never shot a gun before. So he just got it, and he didn't know how to shoot it because like the next paragraph he talks about shooting a buffalo with just one arrow. So
he should have stuck with the arrows instead of chasing it around the world.
Trying to.
He's just trying to use the ramrod and muzzle load it all perfectly while on horseback riding around. Pretty soon his dad just shows up and kills it with a flintlock.
Because he was telling his dad, I can kill a buffalo with just my bow and arrow, but the dad was like, no, you better use your gun because at least you can kill something with that. I proved that he couldn't, but
oh. Andrew Kelso for $2. Thank you very much. You guys don't have to send money, by the way, but I do appreciate it. He said, I have a 45 caliber Hawken rifle. What's the max power charge? Like we were just saying, we discussed this a little bit. It depends on if you want. We can't legally tell you what to do, but if you read your manual, if you really want to know what it specifically can handle.
I think what you should do is go on your different distances and then find out what your max load for the best accuracy and power that you're looking for, like whatever you're hunting. If you're hunting deer, buffalo, elephant.
Here's
I'll
tell you, for me,
that's the best way of doing it.
And I'm not saying you should do this, but for me, I have guns in all calibers pretty much. I get good accuracy. My max load that I generally shoot in a 54 is 120 grains with a round ball. With a 50, it's 100 grains. With a 45, I like either 190 to 100 grains is pretty max for me. What, Jake, you were just saying that. Is that what you shoot, 100 grains?
Yeah, I would say 120 would be like the max service load for a 45.
Yeah, because there comes a point where you're stripping the ball past the rifling.
Yeah, you're not going to gain anything really, besides smacking your shoulder,
and then the burn rate of
missing your target,
black powder and everything. You're not going to pick up that much. I have a feeling you're going to hit a spot where you're actually not going to be picking up feet per second. The ball might actually start slowing down on higher loads, or you're just not doing anything except adding more recoil and accuracy out of it.
Yeah, and you see what we don't know is exactly what if you have an original Hawken in 45 caliber, I wouldn't, if that's what you're talking about, or a replica. We don't know exactly what you have. So, if it's an original, I would definitely start down there at the same. A lot of people will tell you to start the same caliber as the round ball, so 45 and work your way up.
Yeah.
David W. said, I finally got my first Kibler. Cool.
Nice.
Let's see. Andrew Kelso said it's my dad to use 45 grains with a 440 diameter round ball, 148 grains. That 45 grains is a good starting place, but for me, that would be really light for deer hunting.
Yeah.
Would be sweet. Alex Miller said, I'd like to see Snapper and Jake on Facebook, extra content, etc., and notifications. YouTube has been slacking. I got lucky and stumbled across this.
I haven't made any videos in a while. I've been doing other hobbies and being broken all year long.
He's been in and out of the hospital.
Yeah, a lot of good it's done you, huh?
Yeah. I got into a more expensive hobby. Well, I wouldn't say more expensive, but definitely more medical expensive hobby.
Yeah. Hospital bill expensive.
Hospital bills. Let's just say I'm really good at destroying very expensive exotic Italian motorcycles.
You just need
Getting
to get
pretty
you
good at that.
one of those little what they used to call pit bikes. One of them little 1-2 horsepower.
Oh yeah.
About this tall.
There's this thing called a Honda Grom. I want one so bad just because they are little. Oh, I want one so bad. Yeah, it'd be so much fun to be able to go around doing wheelies on that thing. I want one really bad. But yeah, me and my Ducati took a good spill in December 1st. I hit a freaking object in the road on a turn going up onto a bridge at night. Wasn't expecting to have an entire freaking tire basically in the middle of the road while I'm at almost to the point where my knee was touching the ground turn. It wasn't fun. It was kind of a little fun, but
better get you a Harley. You set up.
I wasn't even pushing it hard either. That's what makes me so mad. Is I had gotten that bike perfect. I rebuilt the engine in it because it had low compression on the bottom cylinder. Got that thing perfect. I was so good. I mean, it was so good. Brand new paint job on it, the whole 9 yards. And then it was literally the second time out. I hit that freaking bottom of that. There's those big road cones. The bottom of one was in the middle of the exit. There's an exit onto a bridge where you're actually going up, circling, and you hit the top of the bridge. At the very, almost at the very top, full over. So I'm starting to look left to merge into traffic. And I hit the damn thing. Well, excuse me. I hit it. And then I decided the bike did a couple jumps and then I high-sided. And me and the bike went for this nice little romantic slide into the car in front of us. And I was nice enough to cushion the bike from hitting the I took up that.
Who else just pictured a slow motion with romantic music in the background?
Romantic music in the background sliding along the ground together. And I slide in front of it, and then me and the bike slam into the car in front of us. As I cushioned the bike, so I made sure the bike didn't get hurt much more, because that's the right thing to do. And I broke my collarbone and 3 ribs, which was interesting at the time.
Not funny, but it's funny.
It was funny. Actually, it was fun. I was more mad that it's I just got my the bike I've wanted for so long, and I finally got it perfect. And then this happens. What are the chances that I hit a random freaking object in the road that's not supposed to be there? You're not expecting it to be there. It's nighttime. And we were almost on the strip. It happened on the Flamingo, which is one of the... I was literally 2 blocks away from the Caesar's Palace. I was literally at the exit because we were actually going to go to Caesar's Palace.
You were having Evil Knievel thoughts about a Caesar's Palace.
I was having Evil Knievel thoughts. I saw that fountain out there and I was like, hey, that thing looks pretty good to me right now. So I know how to make a viral video.
Never jump Snake River Canyon again.
Now, I didn't even think I was hurt after the fact. I was so mad about the bike, I didn't even realize I was hurt. I was actually going to drive it home because the only thing that kept that from happening is the shifter peg broke off. And when the ambulance people showed, I could move my arm and stuff, but I couldn't lift my arm up forward into the interesting look. I couldn't do that at all. I was like, and they sent me to the hospital. And
I'm going to get Snapper a red, white, and blue cape with a cane. Says never jump Snake River Canyon again on it.
I'll never jump Snake River again.
All right. Soylent Green said, who would have thought that antique guns and explosives were safer?
Yeah, who would have thought, huh?
Andrew Kelson for $2 more said, does Remington still make percussion caps? I think they do. I just don't see them very often.
They do.
I haven't seen them in so long. The Remington number 10s. I wish.
Yeah.
They should. I don't see why they wouldn't. But
I just saw that Powder River has them today.
Yeah,
Powder River, Powder Valley.
Wow. Powder Valley. They're 45 miles south of me or east of me.
Yeah, and the other thing on that Starline is going to start production of 5070s sometime this year.
Oh, God.
We've heard that before, haven't we?
I've been hearing that for 4 years.
They posted on their Facebook either yesterday or today. They said that they have caught up on everything, and they're going to start filling back orders, and then once they filled those, then they'll start producing a small amount for on the shelf market. But they're going to start producing, like they said, a lot of the cowboy actions. And if I remember right, they said 5070 was kind of on the front of that.
I got a
That'd be
notification
nice.
from Starline last week, and they're like, "Oh, products in stock." And I thought, "Oh man, finally we got 5070." And I clicked on it, and it was 3840. And it's like, you made 3840 and not 5070.
5070.
Well, you know what it is right now. Somebody that works at Starline has got all the 5070 brass, and they're making a killing. They're almost at the retirement.
You know what?
So
That's
they're not
what
going to want to
Garrett
make
was
any
saying.
more.
He said there's somebody at Starline that's selling that stuff on Gunbroker for $12 a pop.
No kidding. At least
It has to be, man.
Hey, 4570 is up to over $1 a piece for brass. I mean, that is crazy.
So
That is crazy.
I got 4570 to throw at the moon. Anybody want to trade?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Pretty
I'll
cross,
trade you. I'll trade you 10 4570s for one 5070.
Let me think.
Think about it, Garrett. Let me know.
I got two loaded 5070s from Garrett, and I still haven't shot them.
I have 51 rounds of 5070 brass, and I know where every one of them are.
Ooh, dang! What a rich man.
Sure.
I
know.
spent $200 on 20 pieces.
That's why he got that banker's hat. He's a metropolitan man now with all his 5070.
I have the box right up there, Bertram Brass. Says 5070, $200 on it. But I had to have it. They had it over a barrel. What are you going to do? It's like I had to have it for video. What were you saying, Sheldon?
So I got those two 5070s from you. I have yet to shoot them.
Yeah.
And I got those two antique ones that are about as old as the 68. So
they're probably worth about the same amount as the new one.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, right.
Okay, a few more comments here, and then we'll go. Andrew Solar Green said, I picked up Remington 10s at my local gun shop last Thursday. They had CCI 10 and 11, and also CCI musket caps. Good amount. First time in years. Caps are coming back.
Holy cow.
Sub MOA said, was your Ducati a Pieta or Uberti? No, evidently didn't have the hard Pieta steel.
The worst part about Ducati, though, like, man, that hurt. That was a sting. Man, that was a sting. And Lamborghini owns Ducati now, and I can tell you right now, it shows. When you look at parts, how much things cost, it shows. It's definitely that bougie and high Lamborghini price for everything.
What's that Spanish company that makes the non-firing replicas that starts with a D?
Like Dixon?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That one hurt. That hurt. Oh.
In the sword world, it's a Topeka.
So the other day, last night, Garrett was when we were talking about Hawkins. Garrett was like, "Oh, that's from one writer who said he saw a Hawken and a Green River knife on the wall." So like in 200 years, that's like someone writing down they saw a Ferrari at the gas stations. I was like, "Oh, it's a snapper."
No, yeah, we were discussing the popularity of the Hawken because we were talking about that Kibler Hawken, and I was like, I can't remember his name, but it was an author who wrote The Mountaineer's Cabin. When I stepped in, there was the Hawken on the wall above the fireplace, the finest money can buy, and a Green River knife on the table. And he wrote that, and all of a sudden, everybody was like, "Oh, everybody's got a Hawken out there," and it was like thousands of Hawkens. It's like I told him, I said, "That's be like you go to the 7-Eleven today." And you write a letter to your friend, and you say, there was a Ferrari at the 7-Eleven, and 200 years from now, everybody's going to be like, yep, 7-Eleven was where the Ferraris gathered.
That's where all the Ferraris were.
Okay, Alex Miller said, I'm glad you had Josh on here. I enjoy these. It's cool to seeing your favorite channel shooting the breeze together. Silent Green said, they made a run of 44 Russian last year. I finally got some. Surprised they didn't do 5070 or 5090. Used to make so many cartridges. Denix, yeah. He said, Duke, how are your holsters coming? Are you making any new stuff? Kent wants to know.
Yeah, I haven't really been doing much other than I've got one buddy that I'm trying to finish up a few for, and then I got to get Garrett a couple. And
No. We traded those out for brass, remember?
Oh, okay. Well, when I finish them, you can buy them again.
Oh, you're still working on them?
Yeah, I got one over here. Well, one of them goes with that Remington that I got sold y'all.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you'd started them.
Uh,
We'll work it out.
But yeah, I'm just trying to. I'm so far backlogged, it's not even funny. So yeah, I'm not doing much with them.
Well, the only way you get rid of the backlog is by doing it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but that
Just
requires work. That's not fun.
Yeah.
oh, I'm
I'm still-
behind on a lot of stuff too. Don't worry.
Yeah, and I got a bunch of people at where I work at. They're looking for like wallets and purses and stuff. So I've been thinking about doing a run.
where all
But
the-
yeah, because those I can turn over quick. Some of these holsters, it's like people order them and then I email them, say, "Hey, your holster's ready," and I never hear anything back.
Just having fun said Starline is accepting 5110 orders. Well, if it's like 5070, you might get them in 2032.
That's good.
Soylent Green said, "Oh wow, can't find." Or Andrew Kelso said, "Can't find Schofield brass." Well, you can cut 45 Colt down to Schofield if you want to for modern Schofields. But anyway, I think that's it, guys. Thank you everybody for coming out. Unless anybody's got anything else to say. No other
It
thoughts?
was fun to finally be on a live again. It's been a while.
It was fun to make fun of your Ducati and call it a Pieta.
No, I know. You guys are killing me over here.
A Denix.
I'm going to go to my room and cry tonight.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, guys, it was a good stream. Thank you for everybody that came on. I want to thank Josh especially and Jake for coming on here and putting up with us for 2.5 hours. And all you that are in the comment section, on this channel, there won't be any live streams for a while. Just have trouble getting the time to do it. Hopefully, at the end of summer, we'll come back to a more scheduled live stream schedule, I should say, I guess. Anyway, trust God, keep powder dry. Thanks for watching.
Real quick, whoever made the Ducati comment in the background, I just want you to know my wife is still in the background laughing like pretty hard. So thanks. This is going to be a fun one tonight. Thanks, guys.
Bye.